Whoa!
I can't do
This fucking poor laptop. So this laptop has had about 4 different beers spilled on it. And it's been lucky enough to always come back, you know? It's always managed to make a triumphant return somehow. Which is magical considering that, you know, I think this
You just got low conductivity.
$300 IBM ThinkPad, like, you know, refurbished IBM ThinkPad. So, yeah, guys, I'm sure our podcast listeners just listened to the Not a podcast,
Right.
the Notcast from Speculator, New York. Fucking fantastic, man.
We got to do this right. You got to go around the table. I mean,
Okay, to my left, who wasn't at Speculator.
I'm looking forward to a real podcast.
A real podcast after the Cracklecast last week.
Crackhead cast.
Yeah, exactly.
To his left, Nick Devitto.
Ta-da! To his left.
To his left.
Dan Kromke
Steve Hoffert.
Johnny Mac.
and Sleepy Cinch.
And your humble narrator, Phil Waters.
Well,
and
we need to catch up on the to his left, to his left, to his left, to his left.
To his left. To his left. And to
That's
his
a
left.
record.
Right, correct. We're up. We've closed out the introductions at...
And what did you ride?
Yeah. If you know, so I know you rode today, right?
Yeah.
Today my definition was, it's what happens if Niagara Falls and the Isle of Man had a weather baby. Because even though it never actually rained, it was 100% humidity. And I went out to the garage and I have like 9 helmets in the house and I have 1 helmet in the garage. I keep 1 helmet in the garage in case I make it to the garage and I have intended to ride with no helmet, which has been all week. I haven't worn a helmet. And then I got to the garage and I was like, oh shit, it's misting out. There was not a puddle anywhere. So I was like, so I grabbed that high-vis helmet and that's like my garage helmet. That's my in case of emergency rain helmet. And I'm so fucking glad I wore it because 1, I rode the Vespa, so I had leg shields. So my pants stayed dry. My jacket totally soaked. I mean, it's a waterproof. It's a motorcycle jacket. It's built in, has some level of inherent waterproofness.
Right.
But fuck me, man. Everything I had was soaking wet. I ran maybe 45 minutes to an hour worth of miscellaneous errands before getting to the shop. When I got here, I was like, for not being 1 drop of water falling anywhere, it was
bad. I mean,
moist.
I was soaked too.
It was like being in the line at Cedar Point the whole time.
It was in the mister. Yeah, you were just getting the comfort mister all the fucking time.
The discomfort, Mr.
That actually started last night. We were out, we rode out for wings, and it was like I wore that bubble shield on the 3/4 helmet. I couldn't keep it clear. It was just, I was looking through fog all night long.
And that's the problem too. Like I rode to work today and my shield got fogged and then I opened that so I could see and then my glasses got fogged and I'm like, fuck, so I pulled
This is
those
one thing
down.
after another.
Yeah.
But I did ride 3 bikes today.
Oh, you did?
The Africa Twin.
Okay.
The R1150 RT.
Wow, that's been a while on that bike.
Right.
Yeah.
I had to fix I put new brake pads in the rear.
Yeah.
And I changed the oil. And then I rode the, whatever the hell I rode here.
Metropolitan.
Which counts for half a bike.
Yeah,
It's a
but
different
that's...
How many of those do you have? Didn't you have a different one? That's a black one.
I had a red and white one,
Yeah.
but...
Oh, okay.
But isn't the red and white one long gone, right?
I sold that to my friend.
Because this
Kara.
one you're on now is fuel injected.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's amazing to me that bike could even start with no battery.
Oh. And you can't hear it either.
No.
When you press the start button, it doesn't make any noises that one would acknowledge as being mechanical noises.
No, I have to kickstart it because the battery's totally dead.
Yeah.
But it still starts, and I'm like, a fuel-injected bike...
That kick starts first kick.
Right.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Or a Royal Enfield.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Royal Enfields would start, no battery.
Dead battery, no battery, kickstart, fuel-injected bike.
It was
first
important
kick.
for them.
Like a honey badge. Royal Enfields don't
Just
care.
don't give a fuck. No.
Never. Which begs the question, why do you even need a fucking battery?
Never dead, always sick.
The battery that was in a Royal Enfield was
no, the ones that came from the factory were garbage.
Yeah. And they didn't fit, and it was just like...
No, I'm sorry. You have to turn the battery around this way to make sure both terminals arc against the frame.
Yeah.
So if you want the red lead, the high tension lead to reach the battery has to go in backwards. And then the battery cover is of course tin, sheet metal, which is then guaranteed to arc against the battery that you just installed. So the trick we were learning was to reroute the wiring harness behind the frame so that you could put the battery in backwards.
Oh, wow.
And then, of course, battery tender leads on every single fucking one of them, because no customer in the world could ever get that battery out without electrocuting themselves. Yeah. That battery was only to be removed ever when it was deader than fuck. Because if you tried to remove it when there was still current in it, you're probably going to weld yourself to the bike.
The ground goes on last.
Ground always goes on last. In case you're wondering, the ground gets hooked up last and taken off first. Yeah.
And if it sparks when you put it on, don't put it on.
Don't put it on. That's right. Don't force it, goddammit. If it's trying to do welding without your help, yeah.
You know, that a little interesting side thing, like I was playing around with batteries at work, and I was just trying to see how much it would take to pop like a 15 or a 20 amp fuse. And it's kind of amazing if you have, like I was just using those little 7 amp hour batteries, but you could literally sit there and weld to the point where I disintegrated the whole spade connector off of one of the fuses. As long as you didn't stick it hard, you just keep going zzz, 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 zzz. And I'm like, well, I could make this could do some bad things. And I've seen it with like bad fuse holders where a blade fuse is in there, but it's sort of like touching, it's making poor connections. Mm-hmm. It'll melt down the fuse holder and stuff like that. It wants to start
Nick Superhawk.
I used to, when I had my drone,
Honestly, yeah.
I had some of the big ones. They were 12S, so that's 48 volt batteries. It's 12 lithium ion or lithium polymer batteries, and it was like 3 a.m, and I'm making batteries. And the thing you got to remember is that the plugs on that side have like the open it, so it's like female on this side, male on this side, and then whatever, and it's late, and I'm sitting there, and I must have put the one on backwards, so it was the right end, so it should go to the right thing, but I flipped it the wrong way. So I'm at the job, and I'm fly like things, and luckily I got the whole job done. And the guy's like, "Do you think you could go up one more time and just get a shot of the thing with the sun?" I'm like, "Yeah, no problem." So it took 4 batteries. So all of them, 3 of them get plugged in, and they go to plug the 4th one, and that's 48 volts. When I plug it in,
oh shit!
It looked like what do you call that cord that you light for explosions?
Dead cord, man.
It was like, and everything just welded to everything in a giant puff of smoke. I didn't even have time to figure out what was going
48
on.
volts is giddy up, baby. Yeah.
And there was no more flying.
No, there was no more flying at that point. You were done for the day.
So the uninterruptible power supplies at work are 10 times that.
Oh, geez.
So it's 480 volts DC.
Jesus Christ.
So it's what, 48, it's 12 volts time, whatever it takes to get up to 4, and they're all in series in this battery bank.
Wow.
24.
20, yeah.
You never had a problem?
Oh, no, I don't do that.
Okay.
Sorry.
I don't do that.
I'm the guy who stands back and just watches.
Yeah.
And the guy who does do it, though, and it's a good tip, which I would like to get some, is he has the electrician's rated like socket sets and stuff like that are all plasti dipped.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And even for me and working on stuff, having like my little 1/4-inch driver dipped in, I should get some plasti dip and just protect some things.
40, sorry.
What's that?
40.
Yeah, 40.
Sorry. No, 40 batteries.
Times 12.
Yeah.
Or talk to a lineman and have them get you their lineman gloves.
Yeah.
I have some of those.
But I did learn an important lesson. I was filming a bunch of linemen one time.
A little sleepy tonight.
In series.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, let me see those gloves. They look really cool. So I'm in Kansas City. It's 110 degrees. He's like, yeah, no problem. Here you go. And they're all laughing. So I take my hand and I'm like...
Oh, and it's just sweat.
It was like 3 inches of sweat. I'm like,
you just stuck your hand into a gut valve.
And I wondered why everybody started laughing when I asked about it, and then I found out pretty quickly.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's kind of a known thing.
Yeah, it's like I might as well ask to put his underwear on at that point.
I have a set of those. They are beautiful, though. They're like deer skin, like super, like you could still bend, even though they're thick and everything like that, you can still move your fingers and everything, but... I don't know if that's the only thing standing between me and
12,000 volts.
12,000
I'll take it.
volts.
I'll take a little sweat. Take a little hand sweat. I'm okay with that.
So Phil, you got more? I see giant stack of little.
Yeah, bikes. We have giant stacks of tiny bikes.
Cartridges of little bikes.
Cartridges. Yes. I would like to order 4 bike cartridges, please.
You have 2 magazines back there.
Right,
exactly.
Looks like you got the extended mag on that one. Nobody who listens to this podcast is going to understand this.
Are those like 2 packs, or are they stacked too high?
No, they're stacked too high.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like,
so these little bikes
you get 2 in a sleeve.
Right. Well, they come out of the machine that way, John. They come out of the dispenser. The guy shows up the truck, and you just press the number on the side. That's how many bikes come out. So yeah, these motorcycles are pretty much magazine fed, right? And they come in these little crates. And I think I'll just take a second. You guys can talk me through it, but I'll grab one and just whip it over here for you guys can see it.
All right, so Phil's grabbing a bike.
Yeah. I'm just going to grab a cartridge of bike.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, they got that down. That thing is packed in there like perfectly.
They do not fuck around. This is an example of.
Yeah, whip that camera around.
You know what? I'll just just take a picture of it, and then I will insert that into the video.
There you go. We have a new guest in our video.
Hey,
There you go.
it's like a model.
That's what it is.
You have to break it off the plastic.
Yeah. So that's a motorcycle.
Not to lose our fucking camera.
Yeah. Okay. We want to make sure we don't lose that.
Nope.
Okay. We're good.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. So this is the way they come. That's how we get these in, and apparently orientation means nothing.
No oil.
Yeah, where's the oil?
There's a smattering of oil in there, but you have to add oil before you can give them out to the customer. But this is the way they come in, and they're really not that hard to prep. These are not too bad, and mostly it's just hilarious because there's like 40 screws, nuts and bolts holding the crate together. So there's this this low grade angle iron that is just pretty janky, Chinese. And the bikes themselves, we've had remarkably good luck with the bikes. The only time we've had one of them come back is when chubby Uncle Mike rides it, and the kids don't seem to break them, but the uncles are hell on these fucking things. And so we do we do all the 70s, we do automatics, because why not? And we've had like a couple of semi-automatic 70s, and I was like, we're never gonna have those again because the automatics are push button. They're electric start.
Electric start, man.
So they're electric start, and the kids can go out and ride them around. And a little kid like that.
That's what we rode that one night.
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
the
that
orange
was fun.
And we all rode it,
Yeah.
right? And it survived all of us.
It wheelied.
Yes, it did. With an automatic.
I
Go
know,
figure.
I know.
This is the 125, and this is around $1,000, right? So we have sold a lot of these, predominantly the 110s.
Mm-hmm.
And I order the 110s in. Always the 110s I get with a semi-automatic transmission, like the Honda CT stuff. Well, I found out that with the 125s, they have an upside down shift pattern.
Oh,
So that's something to be aware of, is upside down shift pattern on some of them. If you're not careful, they will. So it's very funny. You can order them a whole bunch of different ways, but so we charge people, a couple of $100 for crate disposal and building the bike and prepping it and getting it ready, and me riding it around the parking lot for 20 minutes having fun. And I had a couple of customers call me and be like, "Yeah, but I don't want to pay that $200."
Cool. Order it from some.
No,
No.
I'm leaving them in the fucking crate.
Oh.
So yeah, you don't want to pay the $200? That's absolutely fine by me.
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is. Good luck, Stosh.
But that's what all these places like.
Yeah.
There's the Chronic or whatever in
Yeah.
California. They sell these bikes. They don't assemble. They do the same thing. They
Right.
offer two different things.
Right.
Assembled. Then
Assembled.
you pay all the stuff.
Right. Exactly.
But then you don't have to Loctite anything
Exactly.
to actually go through it.
Oh, that's-
or that.
Right. And I think I'm just going to send these out for the people that just don't want to pay the extra money,
Yep.
or they want the fun of building it themselves. Go right ahead. You could have a great day with your kid building that thing.
Yep.
And showing them the importance of Loctite, because believe me, it's real important.
And the thing is,
Here's the instructions that don't come with
There
it.
are no instructions.
Yeah.
No.
Never seen an instruction.
but the cool part is it is
Yeah.
a new bike.
Yes.
So it is kind of fun to build. It's not like you have to peel
It is
rusty
fun.
shit off
Yeah.
or do anything.
Yeah, it is fun to build.
Yep.
And it
And
would
if
be
you
a
get
great-
yourself a good set of grade 8 metric
Yeah,
hardware,
get some real fasteners.
you can put a
Yeah.
lot of nice bolts
Mhm.
on the thing too.
Yeah, and they're the ones that we put out in the world. They're all working. People love them. They're having a good time. So it is a fun little project. If people want to take it on themselves and save a couple $100, rock on.
Well, it's funny, like after all these years, now there's actually name brand Chinese bikes that
Yes.
you can trust.
Yeah.
Like they're good, man.
And these are. I mean, we've got guys that are. The funny thing is the ones that the kids use in the Interurban Assault League.
Yeah.
Those come in, and in a week the knobs are stripped off the tires.
Oh yeah.
The rear tires are fucking slicks. And I'm like, wow, man, that bike is never resting.
Mm-mm.
So that gives you an idea of how much they're getting ridden.
Yep.
Because a kid in the hood who has nothing better to do in the day is going to go through 4 tanks of gas every goddamn day.
Yep.
So that's kind of what those are. And it turns out they're, I spend the extra $20 and I ordered the deluxe because it has the chrome pipe and a couple other things that are nicer. So yeah, I do.
I'm looking at that bike. I'm like, that looks really nice.
Yeah, you know what's funny is the plastics on them are really good too. If you order the deluxe package, the plastics are a lot more flexible and stuff, so they're fun. But I mean, it's hilarious and it's a toy. But
I like to see the kids. On the way here, I got on the TNT, I got surrounded by 3 kids asking about it.
Oh yeah,
And they were all on these with flashlights taped to their number plates.
nice.
Because there's no lights on.
There's no lights. Yeah, that's exactly it. There's no lights. Yeah, there's no
That's
lights.
what I like
on
about
it.
that 70cc. It has a battery.
Has battery. You could put lights
a
on
little
it.
LED light. Or
Absolutely. Yeah. No shit. Had a guy come in way bigger than Johnny McElfresh that bought our DRZ 400.
Poor guy.
And when he bought the DRZ 400, he was telling me, he's like, "Oh, you got these TNTs, man. My buddy and I got a TNT 135. We rode the shit out of that thing. It was so much fun. We were jumping it." And I'm like, "You were jumping it?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah, I put that Chamara pipe on it. And it was louder than fuck." And I was like, "Yes, it was louder than fuck, wasn't it?" He goes, "Oh, it's so loud. Fucking had to get rid of that thing and put a slip-on on it." I was like, yeah, I get you. And he's like, "But that fucking little bike was hard as nails. You couldn't hurt it." He goes, "I did break the peg off. The left-hand peg, I broke the peg off. We were doing a tabletop."
Oh,
and I was like, "You're tabletopping a 135.
With 4 or 3 inches of suspension.
And this guy's, no joke, 400 pounds.
Yeah.
And every bit of 6'4", right? And I'm like, really? And he goes, "Oh, it'd do 70 with me on it."
Wow.
And I was just flabbergasted.
Yeah,
I was like,
crazy.
well, that's a ringing endorsement for the product.
I'll tell you what, though, I'm 230 and I was bottoming out on big hills, so I can't imagine jumping.
Trying to tabletop a fucking a mini bike like that. It's just bonkers. Into the TNT thing. So we talked about last week. We talked about Harley Davidson bringing in their 535 or 328 or whatever. Yeah. And so there's the forums are alive. They're like, "It's not a Benelli." No, it's just the Chang Jiang Benelli motor, the frame, the suspension, the forks.
Right.
But aside from that, it's not a Benelli.
No, it's totally Harley.
No, the gas tank's totally Harley Davidson. Yeah, so is the rear body section is clearly. Yeah, it was very funny watching them try
Show
to
me the factory where Harley Davidson is making anything for that bike.
Oh my God! And what I did think was really fun is that Harley Davidson, the ones that are being built for Harley Davidson, do have a motor stamp. They have Harley Davidson stamped on the cases.
Nice.
So they are doing they're doing that part. They're doing some badge engineering there. So yeah.
But even
Yeah.
that isn't made here in America or
Oh
by Harley at
no!
all.
Let me tell you guys. People are like, "Oh, it's built from this or that or no." It is
At
built
least they could manufacture
in
the badges.
China.
You know,
Yeah.
the part that actually says Harley Davidson on it.
Yeah, it is absolutely 100%. Make no mistake about it. It is a Chinese bike. And I've gone through every piece of it. Now, it is a very nice Chinese bike. It's a very, very nice Chinese bike. And Harley Davidson could do a lot worse than picking Chang Jiang to build it.
Right.
Because it is quality. I have been riding the 302. I have adopted it for extensive testing.
You have a Benelli 302.
Yeah, I've been riding one of the ones. I pulled one of the ones off the showroom because we sold a few of them and the people are quite happy with them. I'd ridden it a little, but I have been flogging it back and forth to work at maximum velocity on the freeway.
And you've literally ridden every bike in the 300 class
that
there is
a
to
lot,
ride.
a lot. And here's what I will say is it will go 100 miles per hour.
Really?
I got it to 102 indicated.
Wow.
I didn't have my GPS on my smartwatch going, but I did get it to 102 indicated. And I will assure you that is a lot of revs. It's a lot of fucking revs. It is well over 11,000 revs.
Tell me a little bit about the motor that's in there.
It's a parallel twin. Yeah.
Two
So it's a
cylinder,
parallel twin.
Parallel twin.
8 valves.
8 valves.
Yep.
Liquid cooled or air?
Yes, it is liquid cooled.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
so that's like that's like the Yamaha R3 or whatever.
It is. Yeah. And it really is. It feels weird to me having any motorcycle going that many RPMs and anything other than like shifting from first to second, third or fourth or whatever. Because small bikes all the time we shift at 12,000 RPM.
So you have a tachometer?
Yes. Yeah. And you have a rev limiter that
Okay.
I found that just like the TNT 135, it is best to shift the bike 1 RPM before the rev limit.
Or even less. Like, as long as you can just get it before it starts. If you could actually get it as the rev limiter hits, so you're
Yes,
like,
that's a perfect shift.
Yeah.
In fact, that's a shift that we would call, that would be like an air shifter.
Yeah.
That'd be like an electronic shifter.
Like,
Because it's killing the spark for you.
Yeah.
You just have to take advantage of that to click the next gear.
Yeah, that's it.
Perfect.
No clutch
Don't even
needed.
touch the clutch.
Nope.
Because that is the correct shift point. If that bike doesn't make most of its power at 11,478 RPMs, I'll be shocked.
Yeah.
Like, it seems happiest when you shift it right there.
Right.
Yeah.
And to these bikes' credit, so this last weekend when we were out at Steve's place, the roads we were on, there's no flat roads. Like it's all
You're always climbing or descending.
Yeah.
It's the roller coaster ride.
And the cool part was that so John was on the XT250 the one day, and we were basically a peloton. John would hit the hill and get in the front. He would duck behind him, and I was
really?
1 inch behind him. We were all 1 inch apart, just snaking up these hills.
Oh, really?
He's on the monkey
I
bike.
was staying away from this.
So, he's on the
This
monkey bike.
caterpillar
I
of
got this
stupid.
Yamaha that it's like there's no oil in the forks, so any bumps, it's just bouncing. And
He's on the monkey bike, so he can go downhill. He'll
Right.
hit 60 mile an hour downhill.
No problem.
Yeah, up to 65 down.
65 downhill
65
on the monkey bike.
downhill, so I would let him blow me away on the downhill
Yeah.
because I didn't really want to over rev the XT250.
Right. Yeah.
But then as soon as he would start up the hill
Right.
and start dogging it, I would duck in front of
Oh,
him
you draft in.
and try to pull him up the hill because I could stay at 55,
Sure.
60 up the
Climb
hill.
that hill. Yeah.
It was
And
like
if we did it
ballet.
just right, I could pull him up.
And so I would pull, and as soon as he got behind him, I would
You would
duck
draft him behind him.
And so
Yeah.
we were all like this, and when we crest the hill, we'd all be like,
And as soon as
there's
we
one
got over
bike
the
coming
hill,
over the hill.
I'd duck to the right and let them sizzle down.
Oh, that's fucking awesome.
But what I was going to say is, so my TNT now has about 900 miles on it.
Yeah.
But it probably realistically has about 29,000 because I don't think it was below 9,947
For the entire
RPM
time.
the entire
Yes.
weekend. Yeah. And to its credit, it still runs. It's running great.
Yeah.
It has got faster.
It's running better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I assure you it's going to run better.
then I did the ride with no working generator.
Yeah.
Oh, so you were constant loss.
Right.
I actually rode 90 miles on just a 6-year-old UPS, battery backup
6
battery
volt
out of
system.
an old.
No,
computer
wait.
system.
That's 12 volt system in his bike. Yeah,
Yeah.
12 volt system. So you were literally running a gel cell.
A 9 amp
Oh,
hour.
we had
9 amp hour gel
He
cell.
brought
But
extra
it's a 9
batteries.
amp hour, and then so we put I had a DC amp clamp,
Yeah.
so Steve was playing around with that, and put it on the positive lead off the battery,
Okay.
and we found that it was pulling about
1.81.
1.85.
So at 1.85
Right.
divided by 9 amp hours,
Ohm's law. There you go.
You could drive
Well,
that thing for
right
a couple
away.
hours.
I just kept the headlight off.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
when we looked at adding accessories to it, it was 1.81. I think it was 1.81
Yeah.
Right.
when it was with just the ignition. Then when the light came on, it was 4.
4.5 or so.
Yeah, and then
Oh,
when
wow.
you hit the
That is
when the
no great.
blinker came on, it was 9 amps.
Yeah.
And then when you hit the start, it was 30 amps.
Well, of course yeah, no shit.
But it was nerve wracking because he's behind us, right?
Right.
And so every once in a while, if you lined it up perfectly and got behind me, I was like, "Fuck, Dan's
He's
dead."
gone.
And then I'd go like this, and then he'd show up, and I'd be like, "Oh, he's still."
And he's on the skinniest bike, too, right?
yeah.
His bike has no
We were
girth to
thinking
it.
he wanted to go
I
back
did
to that
not-
crack house.
I did not have as good a luck with it when I rode it last night.
No.
We went out to vintage bike wing night things and did takeout wings from Noble Beast.
Okay, cool.
And we're going over to Tom's house on West 52nd, and we're about to get on the shoreway, and I'm like, I don't know if this is a good idea.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But the bike died right there at the intersection, right at East 9th and the
Due to
shoreway.
lack of power?
Ended up pushing it across. We spent like an hour and a half.
Did you have a spare battery?
Completely dead.
Did
no
you-
lights.
Did you have a spare battery?
Yeah, I did.
You swapped it out.
Swapped it out, no difference.
Oh, boy.
So we dicked around with it for like an hour and a half. We had the tank off it. We had the generator cover off because I just put the new brushes in. Still not charging. You know, if I revved it way up, the charge light would start to go off. So I'm like, I'm not sure what's going on, but it looks like it's charging a little bit.
No, it's,
Dan,
a,
when
it's
you
a
had-
1984 Goldline.
When you had that apart, one of the things that it tells you to do in the armature, so you know how you have the copper pads there?
Yeah.
you take a hacksaw
undercut the mica,
and you drag it in between each one of between each of the things to clean it out so they're not making contact.
They're not cutting each other.
I have to actually take the generator out of it, I think, to do that.
Yeah, you can leave the armature there, because the point, those brushes.
So I just take off the
brush
mechanism.
Take off the advanced mechanism and the brush plate.
Yep.
Well, you have to take off the stator. You don't have to take off the armature, but you have to take off the stator that's around it, maybe. But if you can get to those, you drag a hacksaw blade in between each one of those so they're not touching.
Yep.
But in an AC,
that's in the service manual.
You could lose a leg in an AC.
Yep.
And be charging on 2 of those legs could be putting out power.
It's supposed in the manual it tells you that only 2 of them have to work for you to charge the bike. So
really?
There's redundancy. There's 4 brushes.
So they built in. Yeah, that's interesting.
I did have to, when I was riding into downtown to meet these guys, I did have to turn the headlight on because a cop followed me at a Tremont.
Oh.
So I turned it on and rode through downtown with it on. Now, little did I know, the switch is bad and the headlight wasn't actually on, but the taillight was.
And it was dark?
Yeah, well, it was downtown. It wasn't dark yet.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know. It's like when it went, it just went completely dead. You could not get any light to come on, nothing.
So what happened?
We the first thing we did is swap the battery, still nothing. Took the headlight off. We checked all the wires, had the tank off, like I said.
Fuses?
Right. Checked the fuse. I actually broke the fuse in the process of taking it out, and one of the guys had a 20 amp fuse we put in there. And hour and a half, nothing. So I go, look, I'm calling my wife to come up with the truck. Tom, whose house we were going to, he rode home, grabbed a ramp, threw it in his truck, and brought it back.
Okay.
Well, by the time he got back, and I'm calling the wife, or I was about to make sure she's coming, and all of a sudden the bike just comes on for no reason.
Really?
Now it's on. I'm like, what the fuck?
Holy shit.
So I call her up. I go, where are you? She's, I'm still in the driveway. I'm like, don't
Good.
come.
Stay.
We're going to try to ride to Tom's house. So I made him go through downtown instead of on the shoreway.
Yeah.
Made it to his house fine. Had our wings and beer, talked for a while. And finally, I'm like,
And that didn't fix the bike?
Huh?
Eating wings and beer didn't fix the bike.
Well, no, because I'm like, I'm going to try to ride it home. So I had her drive up.
Yeah.
We took his ramp with us. I kept the light off. I had her in the lead and Nick on his bike behind me.
Sure.
But as we got into Parma, and you got to go up that hill on Broadview, right before that, the bike's losing power now. It's like, I pull into a parking lot right before the hill and turn it off because I'm like, I don't think it's going to make it up the hill. So we put the other battery in it.
Yeah.
Nothing. The one battery I've been carrying around as a backup apparently is completely worthless. Put the original battery in it again, which had rested a little bit, and I made it up the hill and all the way up Broadview and rolled into my driveway, cut the throttle and let it go to idle, and it just died.
Dropped right out.
It was done.
Well, that's it. You ran out of electricity.
I was thinking about riding it here tonight, but after
You are not making any electricity. No. And unless you
can
have
do it. If I did it,
much,
you can do it.
better.
You can make that thing work.
Yeah, unless you have a much, much better battery, you're not going to be riding that
The
thing
other
any
thing that you
distance.
could do to service that is there's also, beyond all the stuff that's down there on the left side of the motor, there's a box that has relays in it that convert it, So when you hit the start button, the relays go one way and it turns it over.
Yep.
When you let go of the start button, those relays go the other way and then
charges.
it's a charging starting dynamo.
Yep.
So maybe pull the cover. You might be
Clean those relays up.
I never had mine cracked open, and I might have an extra one somewhere. But if you take I think you can take the cover off it and just clean those contacts in there. Maybe it's not switching.
Well, that's the same cover that's on the voltage regulator, right? There's only like one. There's the flasher.
So there is a little metal box somewhere on, I think, the right side of the bike that comes up over here, where all those wires that are going from this comes up over here, like right by the air box. And I think in there it has the whole magic that makes that whole starting charging dynamo thing work.
The starterator.
In the course of doing all this, I noticed something that I hadn't even noticed before, is that when you turn the key on, there's some relay clicks somewhere.
Yeah.
You've been
I hadn't realized
You've
there
been
was a
watching
relay
Vice Grip
involved in
Garage, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
just turning the bike on, too.
And it might even be, too, like that relay is like a relay that clicks, that's like, okay, we can start the bike, but until you go above a certain RPMs, because I know it has the charging light, it doesn't do anything, and then all of a sudden, and then this charging
once
light
it
goes.
throws.
Yeah.
But the trick is it's got to throw.
Right.
Because it's not making an electrical contact until it gets all the way over and the contacts are clean.
Now, what makes it throw, whether it's RPMs or if it's just the amount of current that it's putting out,
I'm sure it's a little column A and a little
I got
column
out
B.
of that bike. That's all I'm telling you. Dan.
Yeah.
That's it.
Would you guys like to hear our first listener email from our Patreon
Sure.
dudes? Yeah. So this is from Nick, no relation. Nick's handle is one of my favorites. It's Nick Chalupa.
Nice.
So thanks, Nick. He's a Patreon's party member. He says, I know you're a busy man, so if you don't have time to answer, I totally understand. One better, I won't answer you in person. I will answer you on podcast, right? This doesn't take any of my time to answer you now. I've been listening to the podcast for quite a while. Thanks for the recommendation from my dad. So his dad got him into this podcast. It's usually the other way around.
Yeah.
It is. And I've come to realize that you know a thing or two about motorcycles. I know I've been making it up for 40 fucking years. I just listen to people and I regurgitate what they say. My question is, how long should I expect a shop to take to fix my trash before I take it to someone else? Long story short, I dropped off the bottom end of my Yamaha YZ 450 because after replacing the bearings and putting it nearly all the way back together, it would get stuck in between gears and not shift properly. Okay. The shop told me at first they were 3 weeks out from even being able to look at it, and it's been 6 weeks and I haven't heard a goddamn thing. I've called once a week 3 times now asking for an update, and every time I get told, he's working on it now, you should hear something soon. Guess who still can't do supermoto shit? I'm trying not to be annoying, but this is my first time I've not been able to fix something myself, and I'm getting really tired of not being able to operate my motorcycle on one wheel. Love y'all. Bye.
Why don't you have more than one bike? We all do.
The obvious solution is always you just need one more bike.
Yep.
My dad used to say you need a pair and a spare.
A pair and a spare.
So that's
my
3
grandpa.
bikes.
Yeah, my grandpa was always a pair and a spare. Yep. And this is so the first thing when the shop told you first away, it's going to be 3 weeks before we even look at it. Now that is very common to hear a shop say that. We say that in May and June. We will tell people it's going to be 3 weeks before we can even look at it. So that's code. That does not mean bring your motorcycle in and drop it off.
It means
because
don't bring it
it
in.
means don't bring it in. So if you can crack the code, there's a lot of hints that you've been given here, but you're clearly an honest person. And you're not used to dealing with motorcycle shops. So the first thing is when a motorcycle or a car shop says it's going to be 3 weeks before we can look at it, what they're telling you is we are tripping over the people who have been bringing the bikes in for the past 3 weeks. We have 2 or 3 or 4 mechanics, and we have 4 or 5 or 6 times the amount of work that these guys can handle. Okay? And it's not going to be like all the easy stuff that a mechanic can do 5 of these in a day. There's always going to be that one asshole who brings in the bike that's just like, yeah, I need to have the carbs dialed in, and then doesn't tell you that there's no second gear anymore, right? Or that there's no return cog on the transmission, so you can't shift to second until you shift down to first again, you know? So that's a big part of springtime.
So what is the
service.
protocol for that? So like, say you get this bike and the guy's like, I want you to go through my carbs.
Right.
You pull the carbs off, you do it, and then you start the motor, and hey, the carbs seem great. Let's take it for a ride, and the fucking thing's broke.
Yeah, happens all the goddamn time.
So what do you do?
I had an SV650 here that was that way too.
So like, you just call me and say, hey, our job's done. But
Yeah,
your
you
bike's-
told me you brought it in and told me to do the carbs. I assure you, those carbs are dialed and they're sweeter than fuck.
Right.
And that bike starts when you breathe on the button, and I can rev it out. Beautiful. It does everything. But you didn't bring the bike in for a transmission rebuild. You didn't bring the bike in for that.
Right.
So you owe us the $400 that you owe us. Come and pick your shit up.
Right.
We're not doing transmission rebuilds right now because it's fucking May and June.
Right.
I need bikes on the lift for like no more than 2 or 3 hours at a time.
Depending on what your bike is, we might not be doing it.
We might not be doing it ever, right? So it's not like, okay, yeah, we know every Suzuki on the planet has a bad charging system.
Right.
So we can keep Suzuki stators standing by and voltage regulators standing by and fix most of that GSXR shit pretty quickly. But when it's like, oh, the motor's got to come out of the bike, the transmission's got to come out of the bike, etc., that's not what we bargained for when we agreed to work on your bike. And when we schedule our mechanics out, we look at the job and we go, okay, that's a 4-hour job. You're going to have it off the lift by lunchtime. Now, in this case, the mechanics told you 2 to 3 weeks, right? So that means don't bring the bike to them for at least 2 or 3 weeks. Keep the bike in your garage or call other mechanics in that 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, try to find something else.
Try to find somebody else who will do it sooner. Take a stab at it yourself, whatever you want to do. But what they're telling you is
take the motor out of the bike
Right.
and hand them the motor and tell them to fix the transmission and then hand it back.
And really, that's not a bad idea either, because it takes up less space and it gets the motor up on a bench where once it's on the bench, it doesn't want to get off the bench until it's done, and it's in the way on the bench,
And
right?
by the time you have the motor out, you might decide you want to pull the side covers off of it and take a look yourself.
Exactly.
Get a
So
manual.
I really do feel like that was the first warning shot was when the shop tells you 2 to 3 weeks. Because usually what we'll do is we'll be like, we're 2 to 3 back right now, and I don't have any physical room in my building for your bike. So why don't you, since it's not a immediate thing that you can't, it's catastrophic and you need to take care of it, why don't you just keep riding it the way it is, like if it's just an oil change or something like that? Or why don't you just back the fuck away from my store for 2 to 3 weeks and then give me a call in 2 to 3 weeks and I'll tell you, yeah, bring it in tomorrow, or we're a week or two back, right? Basically, I'm telling you, when a mechanic tells you that, is they're trying a very nice way to say, we're at capacity right now. We're full. And if you want to bring the bike in, the other thing a mechanic will tell you is there's 14 bikes ahead of you, or there's 21 bikes ahead of you. Maybe you want to call another mechanic. Maybe you want to call another shop. Because what they're trying to tell you in nice words is they're not trying to say we can't work on your shit, but what they're trying to say is we don't want to work on your shit right now, or things are really crowded back there. If a mechanic comes into work and the first half an hour he does when he gets to the building is push bikes out, that's a half an hour he's not billing, right? And so most mechanics are getting paid billable hours, and that really is not what they like to do. They don't want to spend a half an hour in the morning and a half an hour in the evening pushing bikes in and out. That's money they could be making turning wrenches.
Right.
So the next step, okay? Now it's been 6 weeks and he hasn't heard a thing. Now we're definitely teetering into it's your fault territory, because you did take the bike to them 3 weeks, 6 weeks ago.
Right.
And at 3 weeks, they told you they're not going to look at it till 3 weeks. So then, yeah, you're absolutely right for calling them at 3 weeks and being like, hey, okay, so when can I get my bike? Because here's the irony of motorcycle shops. You're going to get your invoice back, and your invoice is going to say 6 hours of labor. Yet it took 6 weeks to do 6 hours of labor.
Right.
Well, what happens is it takes 3 weeks to get to your bike, first of all. Then it takes a couple of hours to get the thing apart and diagnose why it's failed.
If they even took it apart. It took them an hour to go dick around with it and check and be like,
Right.
oh, okay, let's start it up. Let's strike it for a ride.
Well, you always got to check the obvious shit, because you never know what mechanic or customer you're dealing with. And you don't want to go tearing bottom ends apart when it could be a kill
maybe
switch.
the clutch needs adjusted.
It
Maybe
could be a
the
clutch.
this, maybe the
Right.
that,
Could be a lot of stupid things. And I've seen a lot of people tear into a motor that turned out to be a wiring problem, So let's do a little bit of diagnostic first, a little troubleshooting, find out what the problem is. The mechanic goes, yeah, that's the problem. Now it's going to be ordering parts. I guarantee most shops do not keep bottom end parts for every fucking motorcycle on the planet, because you don't.
Nor should they.
Nor should they.
Because shipping is so easy these days, you can get anything in a day or two.
Except for now.
Except for now.
And that's where we're having a lot of problems. Stuff that we're ordering and then it's normally a 2-day turn for us to get a part in is now a 9 and 10 and 12-day turn. That's a combination of COVID. It's a combination of people getting everything shipped to their house now because of COVID.
Yep.
So even UPS and FedEx are jammed to the gills. And our USPS is apparently is fighting with one hand tied behind its back, right? So everything's moving very, very slow. So there is an unnatural drag on part supply at the moment.
Which is a downer for motorcyclists, but if you're an old dude waiting for your medication, that really sucks.
It really sucks if you're a vet and he needs his medication and he can only get it by mail because he lives in Butte, Montana. Yeah, that could be a real fucking life-ending situation for you.
Yeah.
So this one now he says every time he calls for an update, he gets told, he's working on it now. You should hear something soon. The correct answer is I should have heard something 3 weeks ago, and I didn't. So now I'm going to come by and pick it up, and you're going to charge me squatouche. Because at this point, yes, you have been abused. At this point, yes, the service director should be giving you an update.
What do you think about, I wouldn't tell him that over the phone.
Right.
I would show up at the shop and say, I'd like to see my bike.
I'd like to see my bike. I'd like to visit my bike.
Have you really done anything to it?
Right. Because this does happen.
If you've got it scattered and it's apart and you're really looking at it, can you show me, what you found?
And I know at our shop, you can go back to my service orders, and you can see on our service order, this part was ordered for this bike on this date. And if it's over there with its fucking guts hanging out, it's because the part hasn't shown up yet.
Well, you were always pretty honest. Like even back when we built my Stella, like 5 years ago, or however many years, 6 years ago, you were like, yeah, if you want to do it, this crank's going to take 8 weeks to come
Exactly.
in.
Right.
So, I don't mind. We're slow now, so if you want to leave it here, that's cool.
Right.
If not, you can bring it back. And I'm like, no, that's fine, leave it. Like, I just waited. And,
that's what I said. And we weren't far off because that crank did take 8 weeks to get there.
It took a long time.
But yeah, some parts do take for fucking ever. Most mechanics know what they are. Sometimes they surprise us. But definitely paying a visit to your bike is never a bad idea. An honest shop isn't going to give a fuck. Realistically, if they haven't cracked the cases yet, if they haven't done anything to it yet, then that is their fucking fault. They did fuck up. And they might have done rockstar 5-star service on the other 26 bikes they worked on in that 6 weeks, but yours for some reason got put to the side.
Because it was the pain in the ass problem.
Honestly, that's what it is.
I mean, it's, I could do 10 carb clean. I could do, what I mean? You could get so many other bikes back out. There's part of it, too, is triage, and you're serving your community. Well, so am I going to get buried in tearing apart the motor on this bike when these 10 people could be out riding if I just do carb cleans and put new batteries?
Believe me, I can get 10 bikes out today, and those are 10 bikes I'm not tripping over tomorrow. Or I can work on your bottom end or your Supermo and be up to my fucking wrists in, grease and still not have it figured out. And then here's the other thing I wanted to bring up, because this story is particularly, there's one thing in there that every mechanic hates. And did you see the line in there that says, one line?
I can't wait to get back on one wheel?
No. After replacing the bearings and putting it nearly all the way back together, it would get stuck in between gears and not shift properly.
So he actually had the motor out himself and everything. Yeah. Okay.
So the one thing...
So it's double when we have to fix what you've already fixed.
That's exactly right. The one thing that mechanics absolutely hate is going into a bike that has been fucked with by somebody else. Right. Because we don't... If I open up a bike that's never been apart...
Well, you'd be smart about it. And you'd keep the gear sets
all the parts are where they're supposed to be, and they're pointing the direction they're supposed to be. But this guy has had the bike apart. Now, we don't know if that one little beveled washer that sits in there isn't where it should be, or is it still on his workbench?
There's shims.
There's shims. There's everything. And if he doesn't have those things there, its transmission's not going to work right. And now, instead of just taking the motor apart, putting new gaskets and seals in it and bearings in it, now what I got to do is I need to get the service manual out
and blueprint the
transmission from ground up and sit there and clear my entire workbench off of everything and lay this whole thing out just like the pictures in the book show to find out which piece is missing that's allowing it to not shift between gears.
The thing that hit me was the one wheel thing, which there's nothing wrong. Everybody likes to do wheelies.
Of course, it's a Supermo. It's what we do.
But at that point, you should probably learn how to, fix your motor. Like, we had our 900 RRs and beating on them.
Yeah.
I remember, like blowing a transmission and trying to take it to a shop.
Yeah.
And literally got pointed toward the door.
Of course.
Like, no.
They don't want to work on your work.
But to his credit, he did pull it apart.
Exactly.
Yeah. He changed the bearing. I didn't catch that when you were reading
it.
So he did try and everything.
Right.
I think right there, he shouldn't have taken it to a shop. He already had it apart.
Right.
You should have benched it again, taken it apart, and see what you fucked up.
Yeah, because that's the one thing that's hurting him.
He must have got discouraged.
Of course.
He tried to fix it himself.
And that happens here a lot.
Again, so the best advice is get a second bike, and then you can take your time
fixing
your first
That's
one.
right. But in this particular scenario, what I can tell, what's happening to you right now is that mechanics don't like unfucking something.
Yeah.
And that's really a thing that mechanics hate doing, is they hate unfucking a situation. So that's what hurts you in this deal. Yeah. And that's why they're not rushing to take care of you. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what you're looking for. So anyway, I know that's not what you wanted to hear. I know you wanted to hear it's the Dickford. And it's not the Dickford. It's, that's your situation.
If it comes winter time, you still haven't got your bike back, then worry about it at this point.
Yeah.
Or you can just say, maybe it is time to, hey, I'm going to go ahead and try to work on it again.
It's time to pull it back in. It's time to pull it back in. If they've had it for 6 weeks,
start going on the eBay and look for a new bottom end. Just buy do a bottom end swap.
And I don't ever want to say you got to throw the baby out with the bathwater and just buy a whole new motor. But God, man, I hope they haven't charged you 11 hours or 12 hours or 13 hours at this point. And if you do, there's always that thing is the first hour of any job in the service department. Yeah, it could take 3 to 4 weeks to get to that first hour, man. And it's that first hour that tells us how long the thing's going to be on the table.
So if you're a guy that has a project bike, not a project, because obviously a project means you'd want to do it, but you have a bike that you want to get fixed. It's not your main mode of transportation, so time frames are you're variable. Mm-hmm. What's the best time of year for a person like that to bring someone like you that bike?
Yeah, late, like fucking September, October, November.
Okay.
So what you're going to find is that seasonal motorcycle shops in our part of the country, where we have snow for 5 months out of the year, 6 months out of the year. Yeah, we get really hungry in February, like January, February, and March.
So that's where if you do have a pain in the ass project,
that's when you should. That's when you should let us work on it, because what happens is the service department is cleaning up old work in October and November, like September, October. We're cleaning up old work. We're taking care of things that we thought were going to be quickies, but then we got in there and found that, the head was bad, or there are jobs that we get into, and because people lie. If you ever watch Dr. House MD, the patient always fucking lies. They never tell you about something, and you got to figure out the truth, right? So I got bikes on the lift in the back right now, where the guy straight up looked us square in the face and said, it needs a tune-up. It hasn't run in 2 years, and now I want to ride it. And then we find out that, there's water where there shouldn't be water, right? We find these things out, and we call the guy, and we're like, well, you need a motor rebuild or you need a motor. Right. And in some cases, getting a motor is cheaper than a motor rebuild.
What this bike needs is another bike.
Right.
Start doing searches for
exactly.
GSXR 750 no title.
Exactly right. That's what it needs. That's what you need. And
also, I'd just like to raise my hand. I'd like to give a big shout out to, who was it? Who edited their Patreon from $1 to $5. Nathan Ensminger. Just edited their pledge from $1 to $5
He bumped it from $1 to $5.
Thank you so
Dude, that is
much.
a fucking 400% increase in what he thinks this podcast is worth.
Yes.
That's awesome, man.
Shout out to you.
Thank you. No shit.
We do look at this.
It is that kind of a fun thing, and it's fun to pull these down and look at them all the time, because it is a blast to look at them.
John Nadrowski, I'm glad you got your bike running. Sorry you cracked one of your pristine side covers.
Oh wait, yeah, I did want to. So he's sent us a number of things. Any suggestions on how to, because he'd ask questions. He'd ask questions of us, and yes, if you've cracked your side panels, this is it, man. We are all sitting here. We can all tell you we have known the feeling of pulling on a 1960s or 1970s side panel and hearing the dreaded crack.
Yeah.
Or pushing one in and hearing the dreaded crack. Obviously, lube the shit out of those things in the future.
Yes.
Make sure the rubber grommets they go into are moist at all times.
Yes.
And
yes.
Two-part epoxy and fiberglass from the back.
That's right. And Steve's exactly right. Get some over-the-counter two-part epoxy and some fiberglass patch pads they sell in the drywall department.
And JB Weld has a new thing. It's JB Weld plastic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an epoxy that if you had a plastic cover, you slime it in the middle, slime it on both sides and sand it. You'll break the other parts of the bike.
But that won't break. No. So that's exactly what you have to do.
Try to, but you also have to be careful too. You want to kind of get it into the crack, but not through the crack.
Not through the crack. Yep.
So that you see it on the other side. I mean, you can almost fix them perfectly.
Sand it, though.
Well, we don't want to do. If we have original paint, It'll hold if it's a pristine cover, you just really. But I like
slime
what
it on the
Steve's
inside.
saying.
Then,
all of it on the inside.
Then,
So, did you guys see there is these little wire things that they sell that they have a resistance electronic device for?
So you heat,
and they look like paper clips.
It heats up a staple that you can then go ka-chunk, and it melts through the plastic.
Right. And so it's literally this little S-bend squiggly things, and you put it on the device, and it heats red hot, and then you put the plastic parts together that you want. And from the backside, you go plap, plop, and you put them in. And you put them in like staples, but they don't go all the way through the plastic. They just melt themselves into the plastic from the backside, giving it that metal reinforcement. Yeah. And then you pull the device off, and they're just molded in place.
So you maybe could do something like take a needle or a paper clip or something, heat it up, cut it off, heat it up red hot, and then just set it on it and push it into the plastic.
Yep.
And then let it set in there.
And what I would want to do is I would want to use my old Weller soldering gun, which has the two leads.
Oh, yeah.
Because it normally has the electrode between the two. I would just take the electrode off, and I would just put the paper clip sitting in there. So I would just set the paper clip in there and then set the panel on, like drop the panel
'cause,
onto
like,
it.
I would not put any heat to that panel actually itself,
No.
like a blowtorch or a
No.
blowgun.
No way.
Because I have a feeling those things just get at a certain temperature. They just go.
Yes, they probably
wanna fold up and just,
instantly
like-
disfigured.
And that's what people don't get with those plastic
You
welders.
should use one of that my pump up blowtorch. just to heat it up a little bit.
No, but those
you can
plastic
melt it back
welders,
together.
they make it seem like you can weld anything
No.
together. You can fuck everything
A
up with
Harbor
one of
Freight
those.
plastic welder will destroy a priceless side panel.
Yes.
It at the 9-second point, you've achieved nothing. At the
epitome-
11-second point, you've ruined it.
The epitome, when you know you're losing money hand over fist, is when your mechanics
Yeah,
spent what had to be hours
yeah,
fixing a $5 snow shovel
yeah,
with a Harbor Freight,
a Harbor Freight
fucking
welder.
That is the epitome of being Steved.
yeah.
Not used.
We got Steve Tard. Yeah, we got Steve
The
Tard.
snow shovel had this big plastic patch plate.
It was a
fucking-
$12 snow shovel.
Oh my god!
And that mechanic
And it
spent
looked like hours of just trying to
Hours.
fucking melt this thing back together
of
and
pushed
fix it.
plastic into other places. Oh, it was a nightmare. Yep. He was special.
But that is the other option is just scour the internet and watch hard and try to find a new side cover. They'll be expensive, but maybe you want to spend the money. If you just have a little crack though, you're gonna have to kind of live with that. Sometimes one tab broken off.
One tab broken off, just suffer through it. That's all you do.
Or you
It
can do
hurts.
what my kid did and buy a $4,000 3D printer.
Yeah, and then still, whatever you print will sometimes not have the correct amount of pliable or rigidity. And so I've had 4 or 5 items now that were printed for me on 3D printers. And on some print jobs, the internal part of the structure is honeycombed
Right, and
To-
that's a setting. And when you're printing,
to create
you set
girth.
right, or it also
To save-
reduces weight and saves
Right. Saves
the
stick.
media.
Filament.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it saves material. Yet when I took the thing and put it where it needed to go, it just vaporized. So that tells me the honeycomb was too thin. But
Right,
Yeah.
this printer can do like 12 different materials,
Right.
including carbon fiber.
yeah, some of the stuff that I've experienced so far that was motorcycle parts that were made on a 3D printer were no bueno.
Right.
So-
So what you can do is take your old panel,
Yeah.
you bury it in sand, and you fill it with hot aluminum.
Yes.
And the
Investment
melted
cassette.
aluminum will burn away all the
It'll
plastic.
burn away all the
But
plastic.
you will pull out a perfectly good
Aluminum panel.
and then you can polish that.
Yeah, I've watched enough videos on sandcasting to know that that's not how it's going to work out.
No.
The sand's going to collapse and you're going to have a giant fucking half a panel and half an
No,
aluminum art
actually, I've
experience.
seen them do it where they
Yeah.
take like a styrofoam skull.
Yeah.
And they pack it in fucking sand and
Yeah.
just pour it in. The styrofoam of it. It's
Goes
not
away,
going to
yeah.
happen that way with a side.
No, it's side
But
panel.
with,
No,
with,
it's
with
gonna
all
be half
the
side panel and half aluminum.
Well, that'll fix it.
Yeah, we'll fix
but
it.
with all the rubber companies and stuff now, you can get so many mold agents and
Yeah.
stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
You could definitely make your
You
thing.
can make a new one, but you're not going to paint it to the
Here's a
original
hot
color.
tip.
You're
If
gonna-
you have the Honda side panels, which we all know, and you bust the tabs off because the tabs are molded into the panel.
Right.
So on the back of them, they have little spear-looking tabs. And then the edges of them, they have tabs that are just parts of the original thing that are just pulled out, and they got a little thumb in the end of them. A hot tip I figured out a long time ago was that you can take virtually any piece of plastic whatsoever and take a drywall screw and put a red hot drywall screw on the end of your magnetic screwdriver, put it through the piece of plastic that is eventually going to be your nubbin, which can be anything. You're going to shape that yourself. But the drywall screw should already be in the nubbin. Get that son of a bitch red hot quick and then screw it into the panel. And I found that if it was red hot quick when you did it, it will stay there for at least until you sell the bike.
And
Yeah.
have you ever used Shrew Grew?
Shoe glue?
Shrew Grew. SHRGRU.
Okay.
Shrew
I thought you were saying shoe goo.
No. Shrew Grew.
No,
What's
I have
that
not.
moldable stuff?
It's like it comes in these little things. It looks like a ketchup packet about
Yeah.
this big.
Okay.
It's $9 for 4 of them.
All right.
It's clay
Yeah.
that turns into the hardest rubber plasticky
Really?
substance you've ever. You can make camera grips. You can.
Anything.
So if you did your screw thing,
Yeah.
you could mold the little bulb onto that,
Right.
and it would work.
And it would be
forever.
perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah.
So that's shrew grew.
Shrew Grew, yeah. They it used to be really hard to get, but Target picked it up and a few other places.
Okay.
And unbelievably, it's in like the crafts section.
Sure, makes sense.
But like, I've used it for like rebuilding camera, like the back of cameras, or like
Right.
what all the things that
Yeah.
And it has like, what's cool about it is that like the last like 1/4 millimeter is kind of squishy, but it's actually pretty hard, and
Okay.
it can take some abuse too.
Okay.
That's spelled SUGRU.
Oh, Shugru. Yeah.
I'm
that's it.
sorry. Can you give me that spelling again?
SUGRU.
Jesus Christ. All right. Yeah. Moldable glue.
Yep.
All right. Fair enough. Oh, yeah. I see it. Yeah, arts and crafts things for sure. Yeah.
Sounds like
Right on.
Sculpey clay. My daughter does that stuff.
But it's
Yeah,
also
your
but
daughter-
it's resistant to
There's
like
talent.
oils and gasolines and shit like that too.
Uh-huh.
So it's pretty cool.
Moldable glue. Right on. That's for that, and that does appear to be exactly the right stuff
Yep.
for that. Yeah. So to reinforce things and that's,
But you're right.
really good.
Like your thing of putting that thing in there, make it perfect.
It would
you
be
could-
perfect.
You won't even
perfect
notice
application
it.
for it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Totally agree. I love it. So that's a good thing to know. Top tech today. Up on the board, I wanted to bring this up. So this, another one of our Patreons. This is Earl Johnson. He's located in, I pronounced it Gautier. We have a friend whose name is Dave G, which is Dave Gautier, but it turns out it's pronounced Gaucher. So, and that's MS, Mississippi, right? So Gaucher, Mississippi. Or is MS?
Or is it Missouri?
Missouri.
No, MO is Missouri.
Oh, yeah.
MO is Missouri. So,
Not
yeah.
Montana.
Yeah. Well, MS. So I've listened since episode 95. That's the forgotten. That's the start of the non-forgotten episodes. That's where my podcast provider started. Oddly enough, I started listening when I was using my wife's treadmill. I thought to myself, well, this isn't right. So I got off the treadmill and grabbed a beer. Yes, I totally understand that statement. It would be very hard to exercise to this shit. Yeah. This is the 12-ounce curls only. That's it. Running on a treadmill, listening to this
You're
is like...
drinking or hanging yourself.
Yeah.
One of those two.
Oh, Mark. Oh, okay. Anyway, I'm 61 and I've been riding on and off for around 50 years. So he's been riding since he's 11 years old.
Easy now.
Jesus Christ.
I'm glad you were careful about
sound
the crinkles. Yeah, mic the floor real quick.
Would anyone like some pretzels?
If you arc one real good, I might catch it. Deliver it. All right, go ahead.
Oh, boy.
Oh, no, way too long.
Okay,
Yeah, go
okay,
ahead.
okay. Maybe over the
Thanks,
light.
Renee, for leaving those pretzels here.
I would have had chin in the keyboard for that one. Oh, no, I lost some of it. Oh, thanks, Steve.
One more, no.
Go, one more. Sell it, man. Sell it.
A little long, a little long. Sorry, tried.
I've learned my lesson. Not playing that game anymore.
I'm not a good player.
All right. I'll caught one for the camera.
Oh my God.
Okay, now I'm going to talk about the fucking podcasting at the pretzels in my mouth.
Remember when
You know-
people used to complain about us eating on the podcast?
You ever been to a junkyard and they put a car into one of those crushers?
Yes.
That's what that bag sounds like in my headphones.
I think that's a Buick. 78. Yeah. Some of that good Japanese steel in the bumpers.
Right.
So he says he's been riding for about 50 years. His dad tried to buy him a used CT90 back in the 70s, but mom was having none of that. So my friends taught me to ride, and I got to ride their bikes. That's pretty much what my neighborhood was like.
We'll have to switch. Somebody here bought a new bike, so we'll talk about that.
That's
after this.
that's why I'm playing this too.
Oh,
Yeah, there's a little bit of planning that goes into this podcast.
Wow.
It's the strangest thing.
you're not as dumb as.
You're not as dumb as I look.
There's a lot of planning in this because it's very relevant.
It is very relevant. So too many bikes to list over the years. Right now I'm riding a 96 BMW R1100 RS.
Coming up in the world.
As my regular ride, with a 69 CT90 as my round town beer run, grocery getter, and honey-do bike.
Okay.
I bought my wife an 08 Buddy 125 on your advice.
Not a
Should run out
problem.
of gas
My-
should run out of gas in Bakersville's.
In front of a crack house?
In front of a crack house.
I'm sorry, meth house.
I bought my wife an 08 Buddy on your advice on my first experience with a scooter. Man, what a sweet little ride. It's becoming my round town ride.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
You are totally fucking welcome. So he says, a bit long-winded, thanks to the new Belgian Voodoo Ranger and Larceny Bourbon. Again, he's totally right for this podcast.
Yes.
Excellent drinking choices. But one last reminiscence. Your podcast reminds me of working in an aftermarket HD and Triumph shop in Springfield, Virginia, back in the late 80s called R&R 2. That's TOO. We would shut down at 1900, but around... Well, I'll convert it. We'd shut down at 7 p.m., but around 6 or 6:30, customers and employees from the other shops including the owner, would start showing up with beer, whiskey, weed, and whatever for what became known as the R&R Dog and Pony Show. A large time was had by all.
Excellent.
Yeah. He says, great personalities around your table, especially your curmudgeon.
Why am I Jeez. I'm not grumpy. I'm just sleeping.
Peace and keep the shiny side up in between the ditches. So thank you very much, Earl. That is a great letter. And so the reason I brought it up is because he CT90.
Yeah.
Right?
And who in this room would dare have a CT90?
Well, a lot of people.
I was going to say, Oscar's not here, and he has a CT90.
It seems to be a popular.
He's got a CT110. Yeah,
right?
CT110. But so you got one.
Yeah, I bought Pete's CT9. It's a 69.
It's a 69. Right.
Wow,
nice Foley.
Guys, quiet it down over there. What are you guys doing?
He's playing with his penis jewelry.
So I just bought that today. I picked it up in a Honda CR-V. So
nice.
The proper way to buy a motorcycle, I think.
In an inappropriate vehicle.
Yep.
I saw it when I looked at your picture. It was just lying on its side, so sad.
Yeah.
It looked like it had been tired and taking a
Well, with
rest.
stuff on top of it,
yes,
too.
It was stacked in.
Pete was cleaning out a garage, so he had all sorts of stuff he was giving me. So
just dripping all its fluids out of the back seat.
I don't think there were very many fluids to drip.
No, I think it was pretty dry.
Yeah,
it's pretty dry. This thing hasn't dropped yet, so you can tell how watertight those are.
So if you have a 69, you actually, when you're, I know you're going to do a nut and bolt restoration on
absolutely.
this. So the 69 has the weird, odd, a couple little things about it.
Yep.
It had the reflector on the front fender, so you'll never be able to find one of
You'll
those.
never find one. Yep.
And then it was an in-between airbox where, like my 67, the carburetor is actually opposite way around. The airbox is actually a little air filter up through the frame.
Mm-hmm.
69, they had this little abbreviated airbox before they went to the long snorkel one that actually goes up and connects to the rear rack.
That's right.
Gotcha.
So I had all those parts at one point in my life, but I
might
sold
have
them.
parts too. So I'll look in my garage.
But certainly anything that's for later, a 70
yeah.
or whatever, will still bolt on there and work on there. But it'll be interesting to see if you look at your rack, your chrome rack on the back, there should be a little tube right in the front left corner where a snorkel would attach to it if you actually have that little tube on it or not.
Okay, so it came with no airbox. It's just the carburetor and nothing back. So I'll look at that.
I think that's a perfect starting point for like a really little custom, like do whatever you want with it. I bought when I looked at that, I almost was like interested because I've always wanted to do a trials bike where you delete the gas tank, you delete everything, and you just strip it down to next to nothing.
Okay.
And you just put a set of motocross bars on it and just have it almost a stand up, maybe sit down a little bit bike. But yours has a title too, so you're street legal, so that's cool.
Yeah, it's one of the ancient Ohio yellow titles.
Yellow title.
That'll work.
That will work.
With the it's still in the original owner's name, so it's not going to be impossible to do, but it's not going to be super straightforward.
But you have your connections at the BMV.
Yeah,
your
he
Connecticut
actually already
title,
had the address of this guy. So.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Excellent. So what John's telling you about is the little reflector on the front fender. So if you look up at our image, that is the tattletale for the year 1969. So if you're looking at a Honda CB350, if it has that reflector on the front, it's a 69. Honda that year went crazy with those reflectors. The little pedestrian slicer front reflector, they put that on everything. And so the little bikes got it, the bigger bikes got it. It was the official tattletale of 69, which has always been one of those things for me, like the 1969 CB350s. I love the shape of the gas tank, the squarish gas tank. I love the reflector on the front fender. So to me, I was always looking out for the 69 model, and that front reflector is how you could tell from a distance that was the one.
I had a fender that had the reflector on it. I don't know whether I gave it to somebody who was doing one or whatever, but I had it for a little while, and I'm like,
Yeah, they're definitely, it's a very, very, I mean, that's the K1. Yep. So, what you've got there is you've got the
what
first
I have
revision.
right now is a KO.
Right.
I have the original CT90 that It's not really even it would be the original CT90 because it's not a CT200.
That's what I had.
So that goes back to where you actually had 2 sprockets on the back and you had switches. So the KO CT90 is the first year, mine's a 67, to actually have the dual range transfer case and everything like yours has.
The dual sprocket was cool though because
with the length of chain that you need to put on.
Yeah, you would take the length of chain out, and then the sprocket would come out, and
dual range, baby.
And it had leading link front forks.
Yeah. So mine has link front fork, leading link front forks, but the dual range transmission.
But it would suck, like unless you planned on it, like having the transmission or the dual range where you had to put it together.
Right.
Like you'd have to know you were gonna get stuck because if you got stuck, then you're pushing the bike over in the mud and taking things apart.
Yeah. The later generation with the plastic switch that you switched under the gearbox to literally make it into low range or high range is infinitely more intelligent than dual chain rings.
Right.
You know, it's
and it's simple if you've ever had one apart.
Right.
And it's like you can put this on just about
any motorcycle in the world.
Well, that's what I couldn't believe. Like even the big red I had, like that thing from reverse to new whatever, low range and high range, it still worked. Everything works. Like they're indestructible.
It's very, very simple.
You
mechanism.
see the gears though inside there, and they're heavy duty.
Stout.
Yeah,
they're really meant to last a long time.
Yeah,
that's really fucking cool.
But beyond all that, I was actually looking at maybe doing a motor swap. Just like, you know what, I really like to have the dual range transmission. But like I was looking at a 190 fucking Daytona motor in there or something like that.
There's something to be said for.
I could go riding with these guys and be like, oh yeah, you think your bike is fast?
Dude,
This 190 Daytona?
Oh, wait a second. I never thought my bike was fast.
Well, I mean,
the only way is a dog.
The only way a CT90 would keep up with a monkey bike or the Benelli would be with some ridiculous.
It would be with a big ass motor in it. That's true.
They got the 212 now, 5-speed. That thing.
And that would be
the 190 Daytona is electric start, 5-speed.
Money well spent.
I was watching a guy who's riding 60 mile an hour on a CT90.
Yeah. Are there any of the life hand motors that have fuel injection?
Well,
we know of one attempted.
Yeah, there's that one. It's still
Didn't work out so well.
it's still at Mike's.
Yeah.
There's a guy though on the clone forums. They've sold thousands of these and they're working really well. They're good up to the 210, but they have an injection system. It's $385 for any of these, any of the small Honda motors.
Yeah. So that's there. It's happening now. You know, there's a YouTube video about a Daytona 190 kit hitting 85 miles per hour GPS verified. So people get a kick out of that. You talk about how much power there is.
I'm never going to spend these $700 to $800, which really isn't that much, but it's like $700 or $800.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. I totally agree. And that's, you know, when you get into stuff like that, you're just saying, okay, well, this is a thing that was designed to work at about 45 to 50 miles per hour, topped out, screaming topped out. And when you
shit!
Sorry.
Shit.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. Yeah,
you have to take off the fender for that engine.
When you take a bike, a whole operating system was meant to go 45 or 50, and here's your example, and there you go. So that was our friends on their CTs crashing into each other. But you see, that's got the leading link as well. So that's a Honda Cub. That was not a CT. That was a when you see those leading link front suspensions, those things are terrifying. Like when you ride those at 40 miles an hour, 45 miles per hour, and you hit a bump, they never come down in the same place twice.
And I put this big fuck off knobby on the front of mine right now. So
they're nice when you stop though because they come up.
Yeah, well, they are an anti-dive system because when you hit the brakes. But to me, that's terrible because when you're hitting the brakes, my whole geometry is changing, so the bike is getting taller.
Mine is not a leading link; it is a trailing link.
It's trailing link. Yep.
Leading link is when it pivots in front. They are in the back.
Yep.
So the wheel is like this, not like this.
Right.
And not the opposite of a Vespa.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, a Vespa does crush when you hit the front wheel, and the Honda Elite 80 scooters, when you hit the front brake, they get 4 inches taller. Yeah. Which is so good for handling. Yeah.
So I found Sewer Guy's next bike.
Sewer Guy's next bike is the drawing of an electric Honda Super Cup.
Yes.
Yes. And why is it that the patent drawing looks like a 9-year-old did it?
I don't know.
Why do I question the veracity of this product when the drawing that is supposedly the patent drawing looks like my nephew did it?
Well, they also have a prototype.
Yes. Well, the good news is making anything into an electric is really not that hard.
Right.
With current technology. it's to do a prototype, pretty easy. To do an actual working physical production item, totally different story.
But the weird part about it is it looks like it has hub motors.
I wouldn't doubt if it did.
Yeah.
Because it's probably meant to be less than 50 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So hub motors would be a good application for that.
Did you see? I put you. I didn't tag you. I mentioned you on the thing that I was reading about the Tesla Quad.
Yeah.
Did you read any
I
of
saw
that?
that the Tesla Quad tribute.
Right.
So yeah, it's not the actual real Tesla Quad, but it's.
But they had some spy footage of the Tesla Quad that looked like it had a zero motor in it.
Oh, clearly.
So they're kind of their build.
Yeah, that powertrain. When I looked at that,
And you only get the actual Tesla Quad when you buy the actual Tesla truck. And you had been talking.
Well, I've got a deposit on that, so
shit.
I do have a deposit on the Cybertruck, and but having a deposit on the Cybertruck is a $100 commitment. It's not like people that put $1,500 on an Leo back before they got the Leo shaped dick in their ass.
I would say 100%. You've got to get.
I'm sorry. What was that? What was that, Mr. Grumpy Sewer guy?
I said, like a dummy like me putting money down on an Elio.
Oh, so
you should have called it the up your ass.
Oh man!
If you can get the quad, you should get it.
Yeah, well, I was curious about the Elio because I have not heard anything about the Elio in a very, very long time. Has there been any update about the Elio that you've heard, or is it just like?
No, it's the press release from 2 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, that's all there is. There's nothing else. I have not heard or nothing. Just nothing at all about the Elio.
Steve.
And it's gonzo, man.
Biggest mistake in automotive history.
Is that what they said?
That's what the video
title said. The biggest mistake in automotive history. That's saying a lot because there were a lot of mistakes in automotive history. But yeah, the Elio that thing shit a golden brick, didn't it? Yeah.
Just like the helmet that had infrared.
Yes, exactly.
Or
the people
or FLIR.
Built-in FLIR in the helmet. Yeah, the Elio was definitely
fucked everybody too.
Yeah, they fucked everyone, and it's I like the Elio that's done as a shark. That's the only way I would ever have one. But yeah, I did put my $100 deposit down on the Cybertruck. It is refundable, by the way, too. So that's it.
I might put $100 down on a Bronco.
See, there you go.
Yeah. Two-door Bronco.
I'm getting
What's the Elio killer?
The Elio killer? I'm sorry, where were we?
Up one more on the left.
That is some bad idea. Here's what I can tell you right now. That is probably
You want that, don't you?
the badge kind of looks like a Tata, but it's probably not.
You're Camaro for that shit, aren't you?
That thing
that's
right
really
there,
horrible.
that looks like it should have wildfire printed on the side.
It's a sedan.
It's a sedan. It is a sedan. It's a
The
three-wheeled
logo on the front
sedan.
almost looks like Toyota.
Yeah.
The little sombrero.
Yeah, it's a little sombrero.
What? That's not
Yeah.
what that is?
I don't know, but I never thought of that before.
Oh, that's what that was.
The Toyota logo does kind of look like a
It
sombrero.
does. I just I'm laughing. I never
It
noticed.
really does.
That's about as exciting as the first time somebody pointed out to me that the FedEx logo had an arrow in it.
Yeah.
In my whole life
In your
changed.
whole life,
and I'm
yeah.
like, how did I never see that before?
Yeah. It's
Now I'm never going to not look at a Toyota and not
It's like
see
the
a
Amazon
sombrero.
logo is everything from A to Z, so there's a little smiley face underneath that goes from A to Z. Yeah, that's why they did that.
Oh,
I know, it's fucking weird, right?
damn,
but yeah.
that's another moment. All right.
Yeah. I love how it's like the Elio was originally supposed to cost just over $6,000.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's how we all should have known that was a scam.
Yeah.
Because again, you shouldn't be able to buy a car for $6,000.
Well, do you think it was a complete
I'm not
scam, or
calling
did
that a
somebody
car.
have? Did they have good intentions and it fell apart? Or was
Elio's
it a
working
scam?
on most of these things, but the final pricing they just announced pushes the cost up to $7,300. Anyway, but the point is, this was all vaporware. This story is vaporware. So yeah, that's what we have going on. But yeah, when you look at so it is that little ugly car that we were looking at in the picture. That is a Tata. So that is I was right on my initial influence that the logo did look, and it's called a Tata Nano 3. So that's a
real car.
That's a real car, and it's a real. I hope they didn't actually build it. I hope it's just vaporware. I hope they didn't actually build the thing. But anyway.
So it's rare. I mean, obviously you have a million motorcycles come in and out of here all the time.
Yeah.
But I think it's fairly rare where there's one that's going to stay. And didn't you just get one that stayed?
Yeah, I did. I'm glad you brought that up. So you remember 7 years ago we did a thing at the motorcycle show. We did a special Vespa GTS 300 in flat black. and then we gave it to our buddy Kevin Moore, who does the Moonglow Lounge.
Yep.
Kevin and Hadley, and he did a beautiful pinstripe job in it that couldn't be beat.
Mm-hmm.
And really looked good with flat back paint. And then we went out and we sold raffle tickets to it for the Wounded Warrior Foundation to support those guys. And what had happened is we did eventually have a winner, and the winner came out of Pennsylvania. And he got the bike, picked it up, and then I kind of lost track of the bike. We didn't know what happened to it, 7 years. And then a guy that I know in Erie, PA, bought the bike off of him.
Yeah.
So the guy in Erie, PA had the bike for a while, and I touched base with him, and he's been having some health issues where his fingers are going numb and stuff like that. And a deal was struck, and I got the Wounded Warrior bike back.
Awesome.
I'm pretty happy about that.
It's really cool looking.
It's really nice. So
and you did something to the front too, right?
So the front has been updated. So there's been a little more tiki essence put on the nose cone of it, and then I got a bunch more ideas that we're going to do to kind of flesh it out. And so it'd be like, instead of a Wounded Warrior, we're going a Tiki Warrior theme with it. And I've got Tiki bikes now. I've got my GS as a Tiki bike. It's
right.
my Vespa GS is Tiki themed. And Kevin did that and distressed the paint to make it look old and beat to shit. This one is not old and beat to shit. It's nice and pretty.
Yeah.
It is funny though, because the new Vespa is called the Vespa HPE, the 300. It's a high performance engine, but it's like very speed governed. You get that bike up to 82 indicated miles per hour, and it will not give you the 83rd. And there's a pretty gross speedometer error too. So the 300 HPE, it's in the nanny state. Like, it's definitely only going to give you what it's going to give you.
Show them your beer.
And you're drinking the alcohol-free nanny state beer, the Brewdog. Well, this older one, so this is a 2012, right? So there's no electrical interference in it, and so. I'm riding it back and forth to work over the past couple of days. I was like, I've got so Chewbacca is the bike that's behind Nick. That's the fur-covered Vespa. And, that's got a Melosi ECU in it. It's got a big fat pipe on it. It's an 06.
It's got shocks and stuff.
It's got bitubos on it, front and rear. The variators have been upgraded. And that bike will run in a real-world GPS 90-plus miles an hour. And so I was like, it's a good bike. It's an 06. It's an old platform. It's like the first generation of GTS 250s. And I really like that bike. And of course, the fur slows it way down. The fur is not aerodynamically correct under any circumstances, but it looks way cool.
Yeah, if you drop it, nobody knows.
Well, it's been dropped several times.
Yeah.
Exactly. You can't tell. Dents just look like, fat tissue.
Yeah.
It's just chubby. It's just chunky. It's a chunky Chewbacca.
Unless you get down to the chicken fat.
That's right. So you get down to the chicken fat. So it's a really, really quick bike if you take the top case off. The top case does it no favors. You get into a tuck, you realize you're into a tuck, and you're like, but there's a top case behind it.
Sticking out.
Fuck you, right? So, I took the top case off the Wounded Warrior bike, and I'm going to, take the whole rear rack thing off and make the back like a boat tail.
Yeah.
Just make it as smooth as possible. But I got it out. I was like, this thing's kind of quick. So I'm gonna do I want to do a little shootout and see between that bike, and that's a dumb shootout, but that's a 300.
Yeah.
So that's a 300, and this is a 250, and this one's got a little bit of fire breathed on it. So I want to figure out between the 250 with Melosi ECU, and with the pipe and with the variator, with the roller weights being different, how it stacks up to a dead stock, bone stock, first generation 300.
What can you do to the Wounded Warrior?
Everything that I did to this and more. There's more stuff available for it now.
But it's funny, if somebody hasn't ridden a fast scooter, which I had never ridden a fast scooter
Right.
until I got the BV.
Yeah.
It's an experience, man. It's way different than you think. And
Well,
it's almost
12-inch wheels at
electric.
90 miles an hour?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting, man.
12-inch wheels at 90 miles per hour is literally don't fucking blink.
Yeah.
You just keep your focus very straight, very much straight ahead. You just get down into it, and you just kind of go with it.
You know what else?
Loose.
You know what else I've noticed that
Yeah.
12-inch wheels fucking hate, and Ohio decided that that's what they want to do now and everywhere.
Yeah.
Is put the fucking wiggly lines
wiggly
on the
lines.
highway.
Yeah, yeah.
On like big bikes, you don't notice.
you don't
it.
notice it.
On the 12-inch wheels, you're like, fuck.
Yeah,
Oh,
I hate this.
Yeah, it's bad.
It is not cool.
Well, the worst thing is where you get like a seam where there's a pothole that runs long ways.
Yeah.
That's killed. That's almost
deadly.
killed some people.
Well, that wiped James out. So, James was going across the bridge, and there was one of those seams, the Rocky River Bridge, and he didn't see it. He thought it was a puddle. He thought it was just some water laying in there, but it was a seam, and it was like 12 inches deep
Oh, yeah.
and 4 inches wide. So it looked just like an eighth of an inch of water.
Right.
Well, he was going to cut across it. And when he cut across it, it stopped the whole bike.
Oh, beast.
So it stopped the whole bike. He went over the handlebars and fucked the rims up, fucked everything up. Like that, you got to watch out for that stuff.
Can you
always assume that water is 9 feet deep?
Right.
Yeah, don't drive through it.
That's the same thing that happened to Andy, wasn't it? She literally pogoed over.
Yeah, she endoed. Yeah. Yeah. Because of a hole that looked like a puddle. Yeah.
Awful.
Yeah, so always assume that every standing water, assume that that's 9 feet deep. Just avoid the fuck out of it. Yeah, it was pretty fierce. So yeah, so I got
It's a cool looking bike, man.
Yeah, my only modern Vespa was Chewbacca, and I got Scootbacca because it was free. Because it used to be called the Deer Slayer, because my customer had the bike for maybe 3 months, 4 months, and hit a deer, and the bike went in the air completely. The customer went in the air completely. And the bike came down, and it was proper fucked on every corner. Like, no spot on the bike had been missed. And I looked at it, and I was like, well, I think with a set of forks and some good, hammer time, we can get this thing back to normal. And we eventually, like 6 months later, we got another bike in that had been hit by a car from the rear, and the forks were good.
Yeah.
So I Johnny cashed it, and I took everything from those two bikes and put it together. And I think I bought that thing from the insurance company for about $600. And so then I drove it around with all the dents and shit in it for a while. And then I just got sick of looking at the dents. And I figured, well, we'll do a fun for experience and see what happens. And I wanted to keep the Vespa lines and stuff. So I did it two-tone.
Yeah, it's cool looking.
Is the badge off to the right or something like the Piaggio thing? Like
the fur's probably off to the right. Depends on which way he's parting his hair.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The funny thing is when you bring it into the shop after riding it on the freeway, all the hair's slicked back like Elvis. Yeah.
It's a Brill cream.
It is. It's like perfectly smoothed back.
So wait, is the headlight, I can tell that the grips and the bar ends and the levers and the headlight bucket itself are the same as the BV. You think?
No, they're not. They're totally not.
I'm not talking the whole head shape.
I know.
I'm saying the actual bucket.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe. Yeah.
Because it looks like all that
could be the same game. Yeah, same game.
Yeah.
But I'm
next time you go down the highway, a little Aquanet should do it.
You know what's funny is that bike has been soaking wet like 20 times. Like that bike seems to be a rain magnet. Since I put the fur on it,
Did you
it's
ever
just
weigh it when it's wet?
No, I've never weighed it on it. But I was just like, some people wash their bike. I take mine to the groomer.
Yeah.
It's stayed remarkably nice for, and that was the project. I had the kid Jarrett was working at my East Side shop, and it was with that time of the year we talked about, November and things slow down a little bit. I was like, I brought in just rolls of this fun fur, and I told Jarrett, I'm like, all right, there's the hot glue gun. Don't make it look too bad.
Oh, he did hot glue?
Yeah, hot glue.
Oh, all right.
It's just never coming off.
Yeah,
that ain't Velcro.
We all used to do the
spray mastic.
P38 spray.
Yeah, spray mastic. Yeah. I did hot glue because I wanted to make sure because that spray mastic lets go.
It does.
Yeah,
but it lets you change it after a while. Especially with plastic, with like 900 Rs, whatever. Yeah. They were great until you had about 3,000 cracks in the plastic, and then it just was like a bag,
just flopping in the wind. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, so scooters are supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
That thing's got a $900 Shidoni Formula One seat on it, and a $600 bike. So yeah, there you go. So
you got $3,000 for the parts on it.
Exactly. Yeah. It is a magnet for high performance scooter parts. Yeah. That's what it is. And I didn't do a top end kit to it because I really couldn't understand the justification. I have friends that have really good top end kits, big bore kits on their bikes, and they're not that much faster. When you've got a bike that is still in perfect shape, like mechanically it's still great. Yeah. When the motor gets fucking tired, then I'll do it.
That's the thing. Like, like all these people, like they get something, they always want to throw something like, let's put a bigger top in, whatever.
Right.
You are sacrificing reliability. I don't care who does it. It's not the factor. It wasn't the way it was made for.
I agree.
And it's like for the TNT 135, they sell a 155 kit.
Right.
What is that going to do?
What are you possibly going to get from that?
Yeah.
Like 20 cc's on that. I don't think you're going to get a whole
So you got
hell of a
4 or 5 hours worth of work.
Yep.
Loss of about 10 or 15, 20% reliability.
Right.
And for 1 horsepower.
And you're going to be spending the rest of your life going, oh shit, is today the day?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Is today the day that and there's also something about compromising what the factory hath put together.
Right.
Because you know that you're never going to build that motor the same exact way that the factory did. You'll do a good job, that's great, but there's always that chance that just something gets pinched weird or whatever. So
especially with like a water-cooled bike too, you're getting 10% more boom with the same cooling system.
Yes, that's absolutely true. It's a good way to look at it. And we've built tons of top ends on Vespas, and they tend to be really good, and they're really easy to do, and it's a good, easy motor to rebuild. But I just, for my bike, if it goes faster than it should go on 12-inch wheels right now.
Right.
Yeah.
You're getting 90 mile an hour out of that bike when you want.
Right. And that's exactly it. I've never been on the freeway going, if I only had 10 more. Never. I've never said that. I've always basically passing cars up, and people are busy neck checking me because they're like, I think I just got passed by a fucking Vespa.
Dude, the one time on a flat highway that I held the BV open and got to like over 100 or whatever, it's scary. The last time I felt that scared was on an R1 pegging it. Like it seriously, like it's almost the same feeling because you're like, this is shady. And there's flex coming out of the thing because it's a scooter at that point. You're hitting bumps.
Oh my fucking god,
that's
man!
not good.
Yeah, that's not great. That's a fuck, and it is terrifying to have a bike that's not appropriate.
No,
doing that speed.
Yeah,
and now they have softened that shit up. Like the manufacturers, things got a little out of control for a while, and now they're definitely putting electronic, chastity belts on stuff.
Does anybody so back in the day, like for mountain bikes, like even some of the X frames and stuff, if you were going to do some heavy downhill, they sold like a top bar that you could kind of put in there to help stabilize it. Yeah. Does anybody make a top bar for like a Buddy or a Vespa that you could like
on a Buddy? You would fucking need it because Buddies are so flexible. Yeah. You can grab the handlebars of a Buddy and you can move the handlebars back to you 2 inches.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what I'm saying. Like, does anybody make anything like that?
No, you make it yourself.
Well,
usually they have the helmet holder right here. That's 2 bolts. You can get a plate, take the helmet holder off. That's 1 plate there. And then strategically, you're probably going to have to cut through the plastic somewhere.
Yeah, make a hole in the plastic and zap that.
To get to, get to the frame underneath there. Maybe I would do a clamp somewhere up in there. Yeah. Because you can make it, I don't want to weld it. I just want to have it a clamp on thing.
I mean, it just needs something to
Actually, you might even be able to go through one of the panels there, make a thing that comes up in Y's, and you take off the covers. Yeah. And maybe go in there and grab something.
What I can say is the Vespa frames, they're the monocoque design, right? It's the monocoque or monocoque design. It's fucking rigid. They are remarkably rigid. The older Vespas, we would put a top bar in them. Racer boy shit. Yeah. We put a top bar in them. Whether or not, like how much change it made, I don't know.
It was just cool.
But it was cool. Yeah. It looked cool. It fucking looked great. It looks super cool.
Crack your nuts on that shit.
Yeah. Put an actual functional gas tank up there so you get all that extra head pressure. Yeah. So you don't really need a high flow fuel tap when you got all that extra head pressure up there, and then you got that whole underseat area for tools because you'll need them. Yeah. And extra oil because you'll need that too. Yeah. But yeah, it's a very, very weird thing. Yes, the DRZ 400 went away. Oh, here's a fucking tip for you guys if you're ever trying to sell a motorcycle on Facebook Marketplace. Fuck these people. Holy shit, man.
How many?
Holy shit.
I sold two bikes in the last 2 months.
Yeah.
Each one had 100 messages a day.
Oh, yeah. 100 a day.
And
easy.
99.7 of them were just bullshit.
Is this still available?
Yeah.
Yeah, the one-click wonder.
Yeah, or just like, would you take $300?
Yes.
Yeah.
So insane, insulting, ridiculous. Now here's the problem. It's a 2015 DRZ 400. Mm-hmm. Blue Book value on that's about $5,400.
Right.
Okay. I had it up at $3,400 because it has salvage title.
Right.
But it only had 2,300 miles on it.
Right.
Ran great, worked great, everything was fantastic.
It looked good. It was here forever.
I could go out and hit the button. The bike always started and always ran. So God love it. It's doing exactly what it should.
Had the gold rims, which are kind of hard to get.
Very cool looking. Yeah. So I put it up for $3,400. So it's $2,000 below where it should be. Mm. Holy shit! You'd have thought I'd invited people to the best. Nobody could resist this fucking bike. And I had the whole thing. I was going to make a book just on selling the DRZ of the shit people offered me, and it was a lot of cars.
Oh, wow.
Like Scion XB with 197,000 miles on it, all kinds of shit that shouldn't even be.
Well, at least you weren't having the ATV kids.
Oh,
the ATV kids. Yeah. You got, I can give you an Xbox, 17 games, a skateboard, a one wheel, and like some other shit. And you're like, all right, dude. No.
The cumulative retail value of this crate of possessions is at least $3,400. And I'm going to give you 1 hour on the dark web. Yeah.
Really on Craigslist.
Yes, it is the most ridiculous shit that people, and of course everyone says like they haven't seen the bike yet.
No,
I have a YouTube video up because I do YouTube videos of everything.
That's my pet peeve.
I have 24 fucking pictures of the thing. I got everything going on. And somebody writes up, can you send more pictures? I took super zoomed in pictures
I
of
suggest
everything.
you send your body here to look at the bike.
Somebody sent a picture of a body part.
And then other people are saying, will you take 2K? You know, or just writing back the number 2 and the letter K. And that's it. That's their whole response. It's just 2K.
And not only that, but like you probably had decent pictures, so you got a lot of responses.
Right.
This is the typical. Look at this picture.
Oh my God! It's a naked guy on a katana.
Like, look at this is what this guy's sales picture is.
Yeah. It's literally a guy taken. You know, that's taken from the security cam, the Nest cam, when he stole it. That's literally the guy with no shirt on pushing it out of somebody's garage, stealing that bike.
Yeah, no.
That's the Nest cam of the bike being stolen.
Your ring.
He had to call the guy and say, do you have the pictures from your ring from last night? I'd really like to sell this bike.
Oh, jeez.
Fuck that, man. Yeah, I tried too hard to sell a $3,400 bike. And that was the problem, is it was too good. And I got all the fucking, like, everybody in the fucking world. And if I put in the front, the first word of my listing says salvage.
Right.
Salvage title. The next words, cannot be financed.
Right.
So as soon as you get below where it says DRZ 400, it says DRZ 400 SM. Salvage title cannot be financed.
Right.
What's the down payment? What's my monthly payment?
It's $3,400.
I was like,
One-time payment of
one
$3,400.
convenient payment of $3,400 and she's all yours. But yeah, it took me to a whole new low, and that's saying something. I've been doing this for 20 years professionally.
Yeah.
And the DRZ put me on a KZ1000 level of frustration. And
Well,
it did
once
in,
you
like-
get the wheelie bikes,
Yeah.
you're getting all those guys.
Oh my God, man!
Yeah.
Holy shit! It was really it was a hardship
I was offered a CRF 150 for my Ascot.
for your Ascot. Yeah, yeah,
How does that benefit me in any way?
right. Yeah,
I said I was firm.
right,
I said I needed to sell the bike for cash because I need space.
right.
Why would I sell a 500cc street legal bike
Mm-hmm.
for a 150cc not street legal bike?
Dude, on the ATV, I said, the only reason I'm selling this is because I overestimated how far it was going to be to go and take this thing to ride. I don't have anywhere to ride off road, so no dirt bikes, no anything. You know how many dirt bikes I got offered to me?
Oh my God!
Like every single, I'm like, obviously you don't read, and I think I had in there 3 times, like no dirt bikes, no dirt bikes.
Or
Don't want
guns.
dirt
I get a lot of
Get a lot of guns.
yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of guns.
And I would be okay with
I'd
getting
take the right
guns.
set of
I would
guns.
take the right.
Yeah, no,
grip of guns,
I
yeah.
have.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah, I have no problem taking guns in because guns is like 5 moving parts, 6 moving parts. It's really hard to fuck me over with a gun.
Right.
I can usually check it out instantly and know whether or not it's worth having.
plus the appreciation on a
Yeah.
gun is insane right now.
Yeah, it is. It's true.
Here's a pro tip for people buying stuff on Facebook Marketplace. If you are serious about the bike, let the person know in the ad. So the guy that I sold, both guys that I sold the bikes that I was selling to were guys that in the midst of 40, 50 messages of stupidity were like, if the bike is exactly what you showed and said it is,
Right.
I will come tomorrow with the amount you are asking with cash.
Yeah.
And as long as it does everything that you said it's supposed to do, I will take it from you tomorrow.
I just
I
give
mean, I
my phone
generally get a good
number.
response from, I would like to buy the bike, please call me at this number.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
Right.
okay too.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
But you know what? As much as the potential buyers are buttholes, there's plenty of potential sellers that are totally worthless pieces of crap too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, there's so many of those. The people that don't take the time to take a picture of their bike. Like seriously, some of them there's memes going around
Right.
that say like
Oh, yeah.
Facebook Marketplace ad, and it's like the car is like 14 miles back in the thing, or another one's like the picture of the side mirror, but it's
Right.
blurry. Like, what
Yeah.
is that picture of? Like, did you
Go ahead and take a look at there. Look on the right column. See the right column? Okay.
Yeah.
So you see all the pictures of the DRZ?
Yeah.
Okay, ready?
Wow.
DRZ, 2000.
And what's the one thing that's not from any of those?
Right.
There's not one female.
No, there's not one female. Look, we're still going, guys.
Lady, it's still available.
You know, there's a
still
Facebook
going.
group called local one called Hilarious
That's it.
Marketplace Ads.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
run by my friend Ben that I bought my S65 from.
Yeah.
And it's some funny stuff, but it needs more people posting funny
Yes,
stuff. So
it
you
does,
can go out, look for it.
Yeah, I will.
Hilarious
I will.
Marketplace Ads.
Yeah, it is funny when I list cars sometimes, like especially with the little Japanese cars. I will always say is like, you know, I'm not interested in any trades whatsoever. I'm not interested. I need space. I'm looking to move some cars out of the way, and I've enjoyed this car. It's been fun, but it was on my bucket list, and I've had it now. It needs to go on to somebody else.
Right.
And that's when you get the message that's like, it is literally the 1979 Broham, and it's just like, this thing's great. You totally want this. I'm like you. What makes you think my entire world? If you look at any car I've listed, they're all the same. They fit in a shoebox.
Right.
Like everything I do, and yet people are just.
Well, maybe you thought you could put your
Unsolicited,
card
too.
in the trunk.
Yeah, it's just I love getting the completely unsolicited
I think
stuff.
so.
Like
yeah, Benjamin. That's
yeah, I really dig. I really have never had an offer on Facebook Marketplace
Yeah.
that I would even consider.
Right.
Like
Yeah,
nobody's ever. Yeah, the trades are always psychotic.
And
yeah.
the value that people put on their trades is
Oh, yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, it's
It's
The
like if
best
you
offer I
halved
had-
that, I
The
couldn't.
best offer I had on the Ascot was my Don Slicker. Offered me he has an XL 125
Yeah.
and a Metropolitan scooter.
see, there you go.
I'm like, but I don't need two.
I don't
for
need
one.
two. Right, that's it.
None.
0 for yeah.
The scam is still alive, by the way. If everybody's wondering, we did have a gentleman call and say he really wanted to buy our 2013 Harley Davidson Fat Boy Super Low or Fat Boy Low.
Okay.
And he called and he said that he was currently on deployment.
Oh.
So he's currently on deployment, and so he was going to get a power of attorney so
In
that
Albania?
his girlfriend could bring in a credit app for him, or could set up some financing for him, or maybe she would just be able to bring us a cashier's check. And that another one of his friends would then swing by and pick the bike up.
Sure.
And then it turned into, well, you know what? My friend probably can't swing by and pick the bike up. I've got
A collection agency.
I got a guy who's going to do the shipping for me, but he needs to be paid cash. So when he comes by, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an extra $500 in the
Yeah.
cashier's check. So when you get the cashier's check, there's going to be an extra $500 in it, and then we'll go ahead and have the guy come to pick the bike up. And when he comes, just give him $500 cash. I can only imagine that people do still fall for this because they're still doing it.
Well, yeah. I mean, the thing is like after you pay the shipping guy, it might
Right.
only be $300, so you have to return that extra $150, right?
I don't even know. He didn't go to that depth. But I mean, in reality, somebody who believed this shit would be out the motorcycle,
Yeah.
and they'd be out $500 cash, and there'd be no way to get anything back.
And those scammers,
Yeah.
they specifically obviously they try guys like you and
Yeah.
everybody else, right? But they specifically target older cars with older people,
Yep.
because they're already confused about the
Absolutely.
internet. And so to them, they're used to checks. Like when's the last time I wrote a check? I don't even have checks anymore, right?
Oh, people come into the shop all the time. They don't have checks. They don't know how to write checks.
Yeah.
Checks are a
I
dead
would say
science.
the better idea is since you have to take cash to get that cashier's check.
Yeah.
Just bring the cash.
That's what I always say. I was
Yeah.
like, if you're going to bring me a cashier's check, save yourself the trouble.
Bring me cash.
Why are you walking around with that much money in your pocket so much? Just bring it directly here. I'm going to save you a whole lot of exposure with that cash.
send
Right.
the cashier's check to your friend who's coming to get it and have him bring me the cash.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Any number of solutions. But the point being, as soon as they find out you're a dealership, they're like, oh. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, you're a dealership. Okay. Yeah. That's great. So that's alive and well. People are trying to steal shit on Facebook Marketplace every single
You
day.
just need one of those trap doors. Like where you come in and they can't get out.
We had a man trap at our first store, our store out in Lorraine Road down there. We had a man trap, and I had the buzzer set up. So, yeah, we could trap people between two wrought iron gates. And I could hold them in
Poke
there.
them when,
Yeah.
and then just poke them
Oh,
in between.
yeah. When we had one guy try to rob us the one time, and as soon as he made it out the first gate, he couldn't get out the main door, and he was just sitting there, and I just watched that door close because we had a big heavy spring on it. And when that man trap door closed and it snatched shut, I was like, oh. I just got a human. I literally just got a human. I've never been like, where do I get a GIMP mask?
Right.
Like, where, like, I need chain, I need a garage door opener, and a GIMP mask.
And a torch.
Well, that was it. I was just like, oh my God.
You're like, this guy will not be missed by anybody.
No, and I was angry because he tried to rob my store.
Right.
You know, and I chased
You
him
walk
out.
up there, you're just like,
I left him in the cage for a good long time,
Dude, it would have
before
been.
I called the cops.
It would have been so good just to stand there rubbing your nipple, looking at him like, oh yeah.
I was
You
kind
got
of.
a pretty mouth, boy.
He kicked the shit out of the inside of my cage. I
Yeah.
mean, like he kicked the shit out of it. And what I built the cage with was I had a steel door, which you should.
Right.
So I had a steel door as the outside door, but my inside door was one of those. You could buy it at Home Depot in certain parts of town. Wrought iron storm doors,
Oh yeah.
and it's full legged in the whole way around. Like this is a security device.
Right.
Don't let its nice modern finish fool
Right,
you.
right.
You ain't getting through this
Don't let
thing.
its trellis-like appearance.
Exactly. Oh, it's dainty. It has the impression of grapevines. No, this thing was serious, and he kicked the shit out of it. He tried. He gave his very best.
See, what you needed hydraulics to like
Just keep
Star
making it
Wars,
closer
like,
and
yeah.
closer and closer.
Or just at least just pull the air out.
Yeah.
Like slowly pull the air out. So the guy's like,
I called 911. I said, the guy tried to rob me and everything else. And they were, well, did he get anything? And I said, no. And he got back to the back of my shop. I grabbed, the machete we keep back there, and I chased him out with the machete. And like, oh, well, is he still there? Like, is he still in the property? I said, yeah, he's still in the property. He's right here. You want to hear him?
His leg is here,
Yeah.
and his arm is there, and his torso's over
He's still
there.
here.
Most of them still here.
Yeah, well, last night we had a weird thing at the shop here. We had this guy, this dude. We got to come up with a good name for this guy because I just can't come up with a good name for him. But he's a wackadoodle, and he showed up at the shop. He showed up outside here, and he was here all day long. We thought he was just hanging out for the bus, but he just never fucking left. And so we don't know who he is or who he was, but
Squirrely Dan.
he's got really. I mean, he's just got a smoldering look about him.
oh
Like,
yeah, that's a
Yeah,
weird looking
I'll pass it
dude.
around. But so
This is the-
Why was he looking at you like that?
Is this a joke?
No, this is real. So this guy was in front of my shop yesterday, leaning on the pole for about 7 hours. Just fucking around generally in the neighborhood. But a couple of customers came and went, and he said some stuff to them. And then James kind of came out and was like, hey, can I help you? And the guy was like, no, dude, just fuck you. Just leave me alone or whatever. And James was like, okay, so he left him the fuck alone, right? James came back into the shop. Well, then he tried to come into the service department, like through the roll-up door.
Not smart.
And that's not going to work out too well for you around here. And so James went in, go ahead, grab the phone. And so James
He
basically
needs a tune-up.
Yeah. So so James was like, Phil, you might want to do something about the guy. And I was like, well, we're going to close for business here in about an hour. We'll all fuck off, and then we'll see what he does. And so at one point, I just kind of like my staff had all left. So I was like, hey, dude, he's in my parking lot and stuff. So I was like, hey, dude, you got to go. You got to go. This is it. I'm not leaving here until you leave here. So you got to go. And I'm like, this is my private property. You're not allowed to be on it. So he flipped me the bird. When he flipped me the bird, I was like, move your hand down. I'm taking a picture. And so he pulled his hand down. I took the picture that's there with him pulling his hand down. So I was like,
That's
okay.
pretty funny.
So
Calvin Klein shirt is the best.
yeah, he's pretty tasteful. And so Renee was like, well, he's not homeless. He's dressed well. And I'm like, well, but he's also,
Yeah.
this is a mental illness problem or whatever, just an angry asshole problem. But
Spanish, maybe?
then he went and sat on the fucking hood of my car.
Oh, what?
So he went and sat on the hood of my car, and I was like, okay, dude, that's it. Fuck you. And so I called 911. I was like, I told him, I was like, I'm calling the police. You're trespassing. I've asked you to leave. You have to leave. I was like, if you don't leave, you're trespassing and I can have you arrested. So the police have been called. I give him a description over the phone, whatever. And of course, that's when he decides to spout off, my brother's the chief of police. And I was like, oh, really? Then you should call him. You need a ride.
You don't look.
You don't send one of his cars over,
The chief of police is the wrong race.
Well, yes, for this particular
There's your
gentleman,
channel.
yes. Our chief is a black
Swipe
guy,
left.
and this is
So right.
yeah. So
It's like,
yeah, so exactly. So I called police, and I was like, okay, well, if the cops don't show up in 20 minutes, Renee was back exercising as she does. I didn't want her going out to her car with this guy out there.
that guy's too-
This guy's nothing but trouble.
Yeah.
So I grabbed my garden hose and brought my garden hose out, and I was like just about to hook the garden hose up and give the guy a shower, first day at the county.
Yeah.
And so I'm hooking the garden hose up, and the police show up. And the police are like, they just, go where you want, but you can't stay here, kind of thing.
Yeah.
They didn't ID him. They didn't do anything. So I hope I was like, you didn't ID him. You just,
Because what if
Scurried
he
him along.
Retaliates.
and they're like, well, he's probably got mental illness or something like that. I'm like, well, that's not a reason to not ID him.
Right.
You should still ID him.
I was going to say he wasn't driving or riding a bicycle or
Right.
anything But he was on private property.
He was on private property and he was asked to leave.
And more importantly, the next day when you show up and your window's
That's what I
fucking
said.
broken.
When all the cars are kicked in and everything else, we
Yeah.
might want to have an idea of who did it, as
Yeah,
opposed
right.
to the guy that I've got some lovely glamour shots of.
He ran around the
Yeah.
corner and is sleeping under a bush right now.
Exactly. Right. So
Should've
long. Right.
Broke the top off a can of great stuff and stuffed it down his pants.
Well.
I mean, I think that's
Now look, as a man who's had great stuff
Every
on parts of me that shouldn't have had great stuff on me, I will tell you that stuff does not fuck around.
I know, that's what I'm saying. It's
There
a
is
perfect
nothing.
weapon.
There's nothing that can take great stuff off
It's
except
Gorilla
for
Glue foam.
yeah, it's Gorilla Glue, and the only thing that takes it off is abrasion
yeah.
and time. Right? So it's like if you're not going to lay around and roll around in a sandbox for the next 3 years, that
I'd rather
great
be
stuff
dipped
is
in
going to.
pine sap.
Yeah, it really would. I would much rather be dipped in pine sap. That great stuff. When they tell you that you should wear gloves when using it, they should be the insemination gloves.
Oh, you're absolutely right.
No, it should be a Tyvek suit.
Tyvek suit.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We redid my garage. Like I have the Cleveland Heights garage that was falling over, and so I used to leak and it was horrible. So Mike,
Great
that was here. No. He came in. We rebuilt the whole. Well, not we. He rebuilt the whole
I thought
garage.
you were going to say you filled it with great stuff
in
and
his
then
car.
hollowed out the area that you wanted to park.
Made a little igloo inside.
No, but when we rebuilt it, I noticed that like at some point they had raised the garage up, and so the old 2x4s that went into the slab were no longer there, so water could come up through all these things. So I got that really high density great foam shit, and I didn't realize how much it expanded because I hadn't used it in a long time.
Because they
break
make 3 different levels of expansion.
Oh, dude. I squirted in all these holes. Next thing I know, it's on me. It's on my hands.
Oh, yeah.
It's like 7 feet out
Yeah.
from the bottom of the garage, like just everywhere. I had to take a kitchen knife and cut this shit like
yes,
a day
the
later.
worst thing in the world is when you're done using great stuff,
Yeah.
it's not done yet.
No.
So when you're done using great stuff and you're like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Well, that's not done yet.
No.
And it'll break the glass in a window frame.
Oh, yeah.
It's straight up. It's going to keep going until it gets tired.
There's window and door, which doesn't expand.
Yeah, which doesn't expand. Well, then the worst thing is wherever you put that fucking can. So that can is still fucking great stuffing. And so you're over here admiring your work or whatever you're doing or looking for something to cut through the thing you just broke, and you don't realize it and you back up into it.
Yeah.
Or you reach for it. But instead of being a can of great stuff, it's a great stuff that's puking a fountain of great stuff out of it.
And as to the outside, it looks like it's dry.
No,
but it's
not
just
dry.
the skin.
It's a trap.
And so if you do that, then it's like
It's a fucking trap, dude. It's a fucking trap.
Yes.
And the only way to dispose of a can of great stuff is to throw it in your neighbor's trash. Don't even throw it in your own fucking trash. There's a chance you might have to use that trash can someday.
Right.
And if you put a can of great stuff in your own trash can
Yeah, you're done.
and you throw other stuff in there, and that can you had a whole Halloween costume made out of great stuff.
Yeah, I took a big beach ball.
Yeah.
And I great stuff this alien.
The outside of a beach ball. Yeah.
Wow.
It's pretty cool.
It would have stopped a 44 Magnum. Yeah.
Did you do that while it was on your head? No.
It's just in the inside.
I also made like these
That would have
space,
taken like 20 cans.
space worms that went through my body. Like, just like, and then I took like an eyeball and stuffed it in there, a glowing thing, and they looked like maggots growing
Yeah.
through my body.
Oh, yeah.
There's no reason why you couldn't take a canoe, wrap it in saran wrap,
Right.
great stuff on the outside, and then take the canoe out. I'm convinced you'd have another canoe.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great idea. My canoe's.
Exactly.
I've been trying to fix this patch in my canoe forever. I'm like, I just fucking put a board right there, and the whole ass end of it.
Yeah, great
Flex
stuff.
Seal. You need Flex Seal. That dude can float a screen door.
Yeah, but Flex Seal, I wouldn't be able to sink that.
Exactly.
Do that to the stern.
Yeah.
Do that to the bow.
You'd be set. There's
I
no
did that
problem.
with my Samurai and all the fenders.
Yeah. So I've seen there's a guy that drives around here in a, for people who don't live in Cleveland, we have 2 seasons. We have, oppressive humidity and salt. And during the salt season, we basically donate portions of our cars back to planet Earth. And
It's called grounding.
right, exactly. So we get terminal cancer on all of our vehicles. And what happens though is I love seeing the people that have the terminal cancer up to the door handles in an old Ford or Chevy pickup truck. And then they'll fill it with great stuff. And then they'll sand the great stuff with like a cheese grater.
Yeah.
And then paint it.
Yeah. It's even better.
I think that's just the height of class right there. Is
Won't
when-
rust no more.
No, it won't rust no more. That's it. And then every 2 years, when the rust gets further away from the great stuff, you have to add more great stuff. Yeah.
Probably makes the car way last too.
And it's buoyancy.
It'll float.
So if it goes in the water, you don't die.
If they had great stuff that like it was like it
Or
formed
you
a
could
good.
bulletproof it that way.
Well,
I bet you could, yeah.
But it'd be kind of cool if it had if it formed like if it was like a certain variety that like skinned itself for like a good like centimeter skin.
So it gave a thick
Yeah, and then you
coating.
could actually sand it.
That's a great idea. We need like Kevlar great
I
stuff.
wonder if you could just use it and then brulee it, like hit it with brulee
Oh,
torch.
yeah.
You know? Yeah, just hit it with a torch and just like melt that outer layer of great stuff.
Yeah.
But great stuff is probably a little bit evil that way.
Yeah.
So if you hit it with just the right amount of fire, it just explodes.
Yeah.
You know, they just-
I
Or just
imagine
disintegrate.
it's like
Close to 10 times its
I'm
size.
fairly sure it's really flammable.
Maybe that's
They
what
do
snakes
make
are.
well. They do make fireproof. They do make fireproof great stuff, and it's red.
And they make they make rodent proof. So this
Yes, they
great
do.
stuff that has
DDT in it.
like mice and shit don't
Oh,
like
we got
Yeah.
fiberglass in it.
Yeah.
Like fiberglass.
something.
That's the only way you could make great stuff more lethal and evil would be if it had fiberglass in it.
You know that's the way.
Because seriously,
You can keep mice
yeah,
out
but
of your air
fiberglass
box.
hurts
Just fill
now.
it with great
Asbestos
stuff.
kills you later. Fiberglass, like anybody who's ever fucked with fiberglass knows that it is a week and a half of hell.
My RV
Yeah.
is made out of.
It's made out of fiberglass. Yeah.
So I'm cleaning it and everything, and I'm like, wonder how much it really takes.
Don't
to
do that.
to really get the spot clean, you know.
No,
and I'm
you
like,
didn't.
oh
No,
yeah, that
no.
came out really.
Oh,
no!
Why is my hands on
fucking
fire?
Hand, my whole hand was just fucking.
There's nothing you can do. I have glassed my hands so bad doing boats and shit like that. My dad used to work on Corvettes. Like, oh my God. And as a little kid, you're stupid. We didn't have any safety equipment.
Even to the thing of like the Pink Panther insulation.
Yes. Yeah.
Like I remember I used to do painting like for a summer job when I was like 18 or whatever.
Yeah.
And we were doing this garage, and this guy had like they were building the house. So they had like 30 rolls of the pink
Yeah.
insulation.
Right.
And so the boss was like, you, and we're like
Right.
17
The
or
dumb
whatever.
kids, yeah.
He was like, all right, take all those and get them out of here. So we're carrying these things.
And you're
not
like,
thinking
we're
about
white.
it.
Check it out how
Yeah.
strong we are.
You got two of them, smash
Right.
them in your ears and face. about 10 minutes later, I'm like, ah! My ears were like this big.
Exactly.
It was horrible, man.
Yeah.
Oh,
It is just it. It's like anybody else looks at those rolls of pink insulation or yellow insulation, they're like,
Yeah.
fluffy. And I look at that shit.
Candy.
Above every single one of these ceiling tiles,
Oh, no.
there's a 4-inch mat of
Death.
Owens Corning. There's a
Oh, yeah.
4-inch mat of yellow insulation with a paper backer behind every single one of these ceiling tiles.
Oh, geez.
And part of that is for a good R value.
Mhm.
And part of it, I swear to God, is so that you can't tell when the roof's leaking until it's a proper problem. So until there's a 40-pound piece of
Soggy.
fiberglass, soggy fiberglass, that bows the ceiling tile in, which those are made of fiberglass too, by the way.
Right.
So ceiling tiles are made of fiberglass, and the fucking insulation's made of fiberglass.
Right.
So what does that tell you? Fuck that.
Yeah, nothing
Yeah.
good. It
Fuck
can be
that.
kind of considered a thievery deterrent if they're trying to come through the roof.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Or also my three layers of roofs would probably be there. Like I had this idea of putting skylights in the back for the mechanics.
Yeah.
And then we looked at the drains where they go in and kind of pulled the stuff out of the inside of the drain to do like a core sample to see like how far of a skylight we need to do.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many layers my roof has. It's
what do you
a
mean by
flat
layers?
roof.
So just like rubber layers?
There's the
or-
steel
Okay.
that is the roof when they built the building. There's
Structure.
corrugated structural steel. And then there's about 2 inches of airspace above that. And then there's wood. And then there's some sort of mastic. There's some sort of
like a fiber. There's like fiberboard in there.
yeah,
too.
there's some sort of fiberboard in there, and then there's another 4-inch gap, and then there's another layer of wood, and then there's at least 50 years of various different tars and rubber sheeting to be roofing materials.
You don't have gravel up there?
No. Now what I have is I have a full rubber roof with silver sparkles. So they did my whole roof, and then I spent extra money so they could go up there with fairy dust. And they literally had leaf blowers. I shit you not,
yeah,
leaf blowers.
It was kind of cool.
Yeah,
So
it was
I
very
here
cool.
that day.
Yeah, you were there when they were doing it. They have leaf blowers with big media hoppers on them.
Oh, cool.
And they just start the leaf blower, and it just blows pixie dust.
They aggliterate it.
Yeah, they do aggliterate it. They fucking aggliterate it. Yes, they did. And my trash can will always be extra fabulous. Everything that was outside will be extra fabulous forever because it sticks to everything.
What's the purpose of that?
Reflects light.
Oh, I
So it
see.
reflects light to keep the roof cooler, and it does. And they did not. I got my money's worth out of that because I guarantee they used 500 pounds of that shit.
There was something like, so obviously you guys all know we're in the military, the stuff where they used to drop the sparklies
Yeah.
to mess up with
Chafe,
the radar
yeah.
and stuff, chafe, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Now they're talking that they're trying to figure out a way, if the Earth continues to heat, where they can suspend that shit up in the atmosphere, a different type of chafe
just lighter,
that'll
yeah.
just
Right.
do exactly
Yeah,
that and reflect the light.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
Global
crazy.
warming.
How long does it stay up there?
how long does it stay up there?
Breathe deep.
Hang on, let's find out. If it's light enough that it can float, you could probably breathe it in too.
we learned. I was in a very I was destroyed sitting in a chair listening to these two talk at like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
the one night, right?
Yeah.
And it got so good.
And you were Canada-based?
I was definitely Canada-based, just sitting there, and like they were like, you were just giggling, and I was like, well, that was the appropriate response because you were talking about how the Earth or the Moon is a spaceship. So I mean, at that point, there was
They
no other
dropped
response.
something on the moon, and it literally rang for 3 weeks.
Yeah. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying anyway. But what they did blow my mind.
It's
No, wait. The cutting off the cow's dick part was wrong.
What are you talking about?
Aliens.
No, but
okay.
the best part though, that like in the state of mind I was in with these two guys talking about this stuff, they did point out the fact that the moon's face never changes. And as a 50-year-old man, I've never known that. I always thought the moon spun, but it doesn't. It's always the same face of the moon
It
staring
does
at you.
spin, but just fast enough to keep.
I was
going
gonna
to
say, yeah.
No,
it's the Earth.
The geosynchronous, yeah, right,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
exactly, yeah.
But then because of him, I started looking all this shit, right?
Yeah.
And now I'm like I'm infatuated with it. And like the chances, like they put all the ratios of shit that has to happen for that thing to actually do that and stay there for the last million years or billion years. And I'm starting to be like, man, maybe Steve's onto something here. Like, I was like, fuck. So yeah, that was interesting, man. That was good.
That's not a crater. It's a giant radar array.
It's a big radar.
It's like the fucking Death Star, dude.
Dude, I'm not doubting it anymore. I'm not
no
doubting
moon.
Yeah.
it. It is a satellite, but it's not a moon. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm gonna venture to say that I haven't done a lot of study. I've watched more than my fair share of documentaries. The moon landing happened,
Okay.
and the moon itself is not hollow. So
You might have to
yeah.
talk
What about
It's
the cheese
okay.
thing, though? The cheese thing's real,
the
right?
cheese thing's real.
Please tell me
The
I can have
moon's made of
fondue.
cheese, Gromit.
When I get to the moon, I want fondue, heat it up, and waiting
Every
for me.
night. Yeah, I'm definitely going to say that it is very hard for me to accept those. I'd never heard the hollow moon thing before, though.
That
And
well,
I'll
check
give you
this
credit.
out. So
The
to their
liquid-
credit, you
Yeah.
can go to NASA's website and they
Yeah.
talk about how they shot some kind of projectile
Yeah.
into it,
Yeah.
and it rang for 30 days. It rang a high-pitched sound of like a hollow-esque type sound.
Okay.
So that was on that. That's what I was like. Okay,
It's ringing a bell. It's
Game
hollow, man.
But didn't the same thing happen with the Earth after the earthquake that triggered the big tsunami? The Earth rang.
The Earth's hollow too.
Probably.
wow.
Spaceship.
Yeah. Either that or it has a molten fondue core.
I like that.
It's oil, so that's beef fondue and that's cheese fondue, and together we need fudge.
So,
You know, hot fudge. And
so what
you
you're
got a
saying
meal.
is the one dude was wrong, and space doesn't smell like steak; it smells like Limburger cheese.
It smells like burnt steak. Yes. Yes. Is it?
Well, I just want okay. So if something's spinning, I mean, this is way off the podcast thing. But
Oh
if
yeah.
something's spinning.
Why should we stop
Wouldn't
now?
everything go to the outside like this?
What's that?
If something's spinning, you have
Centripetal
centripetal force.
Right.
But you
Yeah.
got gravity fighting it, so that's how
Yes.
you maintain
Right.
that geosynchronous
Well,
order.
but also,
Right, but what I'm saying is
If the Earth spun too fast,
Right.
it would expand.
right. So you have
that's why
two
the
counteracting
center of
forces.
the equator is slightly larger than.
It's a little ovoid.
yeah.
It
But
ain't
why
exactly
couldn't
round.
The Earth be hollow.
Yeah.
It could be. Nobody's ever made it to the center.
Nobody's had that much time to lick that Tootsie Pop. That's a-
But everybody
One,
knows that
two,
Navy's
a
got
three.
a tunnel
three.
underneath the Earth that goes from the Atlantic to the Pacific.
Say what?
What's that? There's a conduit?
Yeah.
Only a wastewater treatment guy would think of that.
We've got
Well,
to
it's
be
just,
way
I mean,
drunker
if you
for
look
this
at
stuff
the,
to make sense, too.
Right.
If you go down to Mexico and they have those, they have water systems that go for miles and miles and miles. All of Mexico has,
Sure.
what are they called? I can't remember the name.
Aquifers?
Yeah, but there's a name for it, but I can't remember it.
But
But
Libya does too.
you can go all the way across Mexico through that underwater,
Libya is one of the most extensive water systems in the entire world.
Wow.
I mean, over the entire country.
The long term, they said that the force of Apollo 11 impacting, the force of Apollo 12 impacting the moon was equivalent to 1 ton of TNT, and the shock wave built up and peaked in less than 8 minutes, and it took over an hour to fully dissipate. So
Was that when they disposed of the lander?
that was when they
afterwards and it
disposed of the
crashed?
lander.
Okay.
That was exactly it. And so they knew that that was going to be a good scientific test when you have something that heavy hitting the ground at that pace. And so they did say that it did take an hour to fully dissipate. So it was quite a shockwave.
They did another experiment. I thought it was like a few years ago where they dropped a projectile
Yeah, that's what I
into the
read.
Earth.
Yeah, this
or
is-
into the moon. So.
Yeah, they said, and also they said that the S4B from Apollo 13 did hit 85 miles from Apollo 12's, and they said it was the only thing in the mission that went right. was crashing the ship. It was the only thing in the mission that it hit with the force of 11.5 tons of TNT and translated a seismic impact 30 times greater than and 4 times longer than the ones from the previous hit. So, I mean, people have been shooting shit at the moon for a while. Yeah. What does this do? Shoot it. Let's find out. Have you tried blowing it up?
We've already attacked it, so we know there's nobody home.
We know there's nobody else. Right.
Wait, didn't you ever see Iron Sky? That's a documentary.
That's a documentary. The Nazis are on the moon. They're just on the dark side. Fuck you. You can't see them. You know why? All their shit's black. It blends in. Yeah. Yeah. That's really, and we are that culture that has been like, well, have you tried blowing it up?
Right.
Right. Until you've tried blowing it up yet, we really don't want you to write the report. Yeah. No, it's performing a strange thing. There's a bit of an anomaly. Have you tried blowing it up?
Right. More
Nuke
fire.
it.
Nuke
Right. Well, try blowing it up and then get back to me with the results. It stopped. What did it stop? It stopped everything. It doesn't do that anymore. Why? We blew it up. Well, then you got a result, don't you? Yeah, we totally have a result.
Then we wouldn't have any more tidal
doesn't
waves.
exist.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that would be. Yeah, that's
be bad,
that's
right?
the game. I'm just honestly surprised nobody's advertising on it yet.
It's true.
Seriously, tell me anything else in the world that
Yeah,
has the kind of reach. I mean, you want to talk about something going viral?
Oh yeah.
Everyone gets the moon.
Yeah.
Like people in Australia get the moon.
There's going to be an Amazon logo.
So we
Right.
need a series of impacts. that
People in
actually-
Africa get the moon.
So we send these little micro satellites
Yeah.
that will eventually drift their way to
Perfect.
the moon with enough,
Yep.
they can steer themselves and they will land in a pattern and
like
they
a
will
dot
say
matrix printer.
ClevelandMoto.
No, they'll say Google. Let's be honest. They're going to say Google.
That's the only
They're going to say Google or they're going to say Amazon. It's going to say Google or Amazon or Trump. And it's going to say one of those things. And it's going to say that because most of the planet gets most of the moon most of the time.
Yeah. Right.
There's nothing that has the advertising impact of the moon.
There's a great website now. It's called "Did Jeff Bezos End World Hunger Today?"
Oh.
And every day they check and see. 'cause
Every day they check to see if he ended world hunger. Oh, that's sad.
Well, I
And
heard
hungry.
that if he gave up his entire fortune, that it would equate to $19 extra for every person in the United States.
Oh, really?
There's no way.
I have no idea.
No, per year. So,
Per year.
so what they so
I think he
like
was, at
4 million
100, he
years.
was at 140 billion or something like that. Or,
Yeah.
No, he was.
200 something.
Yeah.
You exceeded $200 billion. So
So what's
what they said was,
what's
would you-
300? What's 200 billion divided by 300 million?
a lot more than $19 a year.
No, it's
Okay.
like whatever it is. It's $19 a year for this period that you'd have to. The payoff would be. So say, I think it was probably 30 years, and you would think it would be 30 years. So they said that, okay, so you want to get rid of people who make money. Would you rather have $19 or would you rather have Amazon? No, I'm serious. This is a question. They said the guy could have completely failed and had nothing.
Right.
But he didn't completely fail. He made Amazon, and now it's this monster that sells all you Chinese ripoffs.
Your
And
answer
then-
to 300 billion divided, or 300 billion divided by 200 million, was that?
300 million. So 200 billion divided by 300 million.
Oh, okay. I did it the other
It's
way
like
around.
365 million, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It comes the the way I did was 300 billion divided by 200 million, and that came out to $1,500.
Okay.
Yeah, so maybe amortized over 30 years, that would be $1,500. I mean, that'd be $19 a year amortized over 30 years. But I mean, this is.
No, he
just
could
what
give you
was-
$1,500 right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but then
Now,
you
for
wouldn't-
some people,
but you wouldn't have
$1,500 would feed them for 10 years,
Yeah.
depending on where you are. Right. I mean, $1,500 in the right place. You know,
That's every person in this country.
if you're in
300 million.
Vietnam and you get $1,500, you're
Yeah, you're
probably
doing-
going to be able to buy a nice little house.
Oh,
with
so
it,
if you're
you know?
talking the world's population, then yeah, maybe it goes down to $19 a person.
Yeah, I have no idea. Yeah.
But they said that
Better minds
then
than
you
me.
wouldn't have Amazon. So
No, but I
would
don't
you
think-
rather have
Well, the real
Amazon-
trade-off
But
is
where
would
would
you
I get
rather
my
have,
wireless headphones then?
Would you rather have Amazon or would you rather have Kmart, J.C. Penney's, and everybody they've put out of business? Is really
Right.
what's happening.
Yeah.
Well, I mean that's the
And the real
debate.
death
I mean, I'm not
matches
saying
between
that
the
I'm
real
not-
death matches between Amazon and Walmart.
Jeff
right?
Bezos
really is.
just has
Yeah.
stock in Amazon at this
Yeah.
point. So even if he went away and took all his money, Amazon's not going anywhere.
No,
at
but
this
what they're
point.
saying is, do you want to take away people who? I mean, the debate is whether or not you want to squash entrepreneurship. I mean, that was
Right.
like an example of. that
I'm
was an
perfectly happy with Jeff Bezos being a ridiculously fucking wealthy person. Good for him.
I've never met the guy.
No,
Never
I
met
mean,
him,
no.
never
but
will.
This is what the
Right.
debate was. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that. I'm not taking a side like this is good or this is bad.
Right.
What I'm saying is their debate was the impact that he has
Yeah.
on the people of the United States is $19 a year
Right.
versus having Amazon.
Right,
So
exactly.
you're looking at
Everybody in the world
like,
uses Amazon. I
Exactly.
mean, it's not just. I mean,
yeah,
like this.
yeah, but I think that's what this is the example that they posed.
I can tell you.
I think it's a
absolutely.
perfect example of American innovation, and he did what you can do in America.
Right,
And
or Tesla. I mean,
Well,
look at something
what's
like,
shocking to me is of all the different people and companies that I order motorcycle parts from, what has become one of our go-tos here at the shop has been Amazon.
Wow.
And it's when I can't find a part through my normal channels, I always, after I try and I realize, oh, this guy's going to get the part to me in 9 weeks, or this guy's going to get the part to me in 12 weeks, or this guy says he has the part and we don't even know if he has the part because he's a company that bills my credit card and then tells me 6 weeks later the part doesn't exist.
Right. Yeah, I hate those people.
Yeah, you guys out there with your fast dog getting parts. We're not going to name the name of the company, but yeah, they don't bill me if you don't have my part.
Right.
So, but I have always, well, at least in the past couple of years, we started doing that where we start going on to Amazon for something, and it's shocking the level of specificity that you can get, like a Honda part number from 1983.
oh yeah, no, they're
You know,
it-
and it's
you're
not
right.
eBay where, again, that transaction could take a while because we go there too. Believe me, a lot of people aren't using eBay anymore. We're using eBay every bit as much as we ever have because it is still a better way for us to find obscure parts.
Right.
When customers call here and say, man, where do you guys get your 80s Honda parts? eBay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where do we call Old Bike Barn, and there's one or two other places we go, and then we go to eBay. And places like Partzilla, they've got the best microfishes. They've got the best parts blow-up diagrams all in one spot. So you use that to start your quest.
Yep.
And if you click on there and you see that your part that you need is $400 and it looks like it's going to be more than 4 weeks for it to get to you, it's because they don't have the part.
And here's another.
Yeah.
I don't know if Partzilla has it, but any of the ones where you get a microfiche kind of
Yeah.
thing, look for an advanced search.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do the eBay thing, say you have, I don't know, a 1973 whatever,
Right.
and you can't find that part anywhere. A lot of those things have the advanced search where it cross-references
Yes.
it, and it'll tell you, like, well, you can get the 1992 or whatever
Exactly.
450 part, and it's
Right.
the same one. So that's awesome.
Advanced search is excellent.
Well, I just like looking up the actual Honda part number.
So that's where.
And once you get that part number
Yeah.
and you plug that into eBay, it opens up all kinds of doors.
And we'll save you some time, is that if you go to the company called Bike Bandit, they don't give you the real part number.
Ah,
They give you their part number.
okay.
And I convinced theirs is just a matrix that takes the real part number and just changes it around real quick in a code that they have got figured out. Because I don't think they've changed the
I
part
go to
numbers
Parts Fish and
for every
that's-
bike everywhere. What's that?
Parts Fish has
Yeah.
Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
You got all of them?
You guys ready for a super tip?
I'm totally ready for a super tip.
And Nick, you'd be into this too. But this doesn't come from me. It comes from AVE, so you might have seen it already. But he enlightened me to. So if you have a small thing, a small plastic part, or a small thing that say McMaster car carries,
Right.
you can go to their website and you find the part number and stuff. And if you look to the right, it has View 3D Drawing, and so you can go and you hit it, and it's actually an STL file.
Is it really?
Of the part.
Get out of here.
And if you right-click and save it, you now have an STL, that you
file.
can print on your 3D printer for free.
Yeah.
And so obviously, on a gear that goes in a motor, it won't work.
Well, that's the future of auto parts.
Yeah.
Is that they're not going to be coming from China. You're going to go in the auto parts store, and they're going to have 3D printers in the back room.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And they're going to be like, what do you want? Okay. Boop, 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 boop. Give it about 5, 10, 20 minutes, whatever. Or come back later and we'll have it ready
Jetsons.
for you.
Oh, dude, we're there. We're just a couple years from having like affordable metal printers.
Right.
No problem.
And I think that's going to be a really, really big thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, a lot of when you get back into a lot of the 70s Japanese bike parts stuff, that shit's not available. It's not obtainable through any part supplier. It's literally an old man on a dial-up modem hunting for a soggy cardboard box.
Right.
That was Ohio Cycle for you.
Forever.
Where they had an amazing wealth of early 60s Honda stuff.
They did. Yep.
The only way you could order from them was to print out their order form.
Yep.
Write a check, write your part numbers on it, put it in an envelope, and mail it to them.
Yep.
When they received it, they would fulfill it, and eventually you would get your parts.
Right.
But you could order right off the shelf at almost the original cost. Fucking anything for a 65 Honda Dream. They had it.
And they are gone now?
Yes. Oh, yeah. And they were just that kind of thing. Was they were just going through a giant warehouse of parts and giving you your part, putting it in a box and mailing it to you.
Right.
Yeah.
The guy had no interest in learning new systems.
No. And then that would mean that somebody would have to physically go through and catalog the shit.
Yeah.
Thousands and thousands of parts. Yeah. And we used to do that here. So at one point in our business, we had over 43,000 SKUs. And we were like, no.
Yeah, that's insane.
We're not doing this anymore. And
it's cool if your main job is selling parts.
Yes.
But if it's not,
we couldn't do it.
That's
it made no sense for us to maintain that madness and then also to do an inventory every year in January that was going to take 3 weeks for a hand touch inventory. So we could what? So we could know that instead of 7, Honda CB 750 side stands, we had 3.
Right.
Oh, we lost one somewhere in the shuffle. Right. Oh shit! Stop the presses.
Right.
We lost a single CB 750 side stand.
Right.
No. Do you know what the two important numbers are? 1 and none.
Right.
If you have none and you want to have more than none, order 1.
Right.
If you have 1 or more, and you haven't sold one in 3 years, you have too many.
Right.
So don't order anymore. Yeah. And when that one sells, everyone dances.
Right.
Because that's an item you can close out and kill.
Yeah, big inventory does not seem like it's a viable thing anymore.
And you pay tax on it.
Oh, yeah.
Every fucking year.
So stupid. That is ridiculous.
So the fact that I paid tax on my inventory, this 1986 Suzuki part, I paid tax on for 12 years.
Right.
Well, that's just ridiculous. That's absolutely obscene. So so it's like, we've had to tell our accountant several times before. He's like, well, you do understand that our inventory that's now 10 or 20 or 30 years old, that has devalued down to nothing.
Right.
So we have to build in a devaluation of that dollar amount. Depreciation, because that part has no value anymore.
Right.
Yeah. Guess what? It's now scrap metal. And that's true.
One of the things that Ohio Cycle actually had listed in their catalog was OEM chrome Honda Super Hawk fenders. So
wow.
Honda Super
Hawk were never chrome.
They were never chrome. They were always painted. But they had a set of chrome Super Hawk fenders that were $253 a piece. And I was like, oh, I wish I had that kind of money. I would buy them.
There is nothing, when it comes to vintage motorcycle parts, which is what I thought, if you'd asked me 25 years ago what a big part of my business was going to be 25 years, I would have been like, yeah, we're going to have cool 4-to-1 headers hanging off the walls, and it's going to look like the motorcycle shops I remember as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And what I can tell you now is that is a recipe for disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is it.
Yeah, because instead of a store, now you're basically the customer waiting for that one person to find you.
Yeah.
Like it's just it's impossible.
Yeah.
Even with the internet, it's too much.
And that's exactly what it is. And sitting there and you're like, okay, list this on eBay. Now list it on eBay again. Now list it on eBay again. Now list it on eBay again.
And then when you finally sell it, you
But that's
realize,
what-
holy shit,
But
eBay's
that's
taking
the
how
beauty
much?
of Amazon. I mean, that's what my buddy Kevin does. Is he does a couple of different things with Amazon, but he brings items to Amazon and gets them listed on Amazon. And once you have them listed, it's listed.
Yep.
Everybody in the world can see it, and you can sell as many as you want.
Right.
They're just fly off the shelf because if they fly off the shelf too fast, then Amazon buys you out.
Exactly.
And then they list them at what they can make a lot of money at. So, like that one little drone I bought was $14 or whatever.
Right.
Wow, I was like, crazy! This is crazy! I can't believe it. And it was being sold by Hooflunpoo.
Yeah.
But I went back to order it again, and now that same drone is $50-some, and it's Amazon's choice.
Exactly. Yeah.
And Amazon was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, these are flying off the shelf at $15. We can put this at a price point of $50 and still make a killing."
Oh yeah.
And
Crush it.
they will buy it up.
Yeah.
It's like any
That's where
product.
they're probably making a lot of their money.
Well, you're right.
Yeah.
And I think it's really hard. Any product that has, I mean, it's like clothing, but a motorcycle part, whatever.
Yeah.
If it has sizes, if it has individual stuff, it's not just one thing that you sell, a widget that any schmuck can use this widget, you're just setting yourself up for
Anybody in the
issues.
clothing industry will tell you that it is a nightmare.
Yeah.
Like,
When I had Rider for Life, we'd be like, okay, last time we were in VIR in Virginia, we sold out of larges in 4 seconds. We got stuck with 1 million double X's.
Yeah.
So we're going back to VIR.
Right.
So we're going to get 5,000 larges, and
Just-
then we'll just roll whatever. We get down there, and that year it was like the
All fat
obesity clinic,
Yep.
and then they're like,
Yep.
"You have 5X," and we're like, "No, but we have 1,000 larges." And then,
Do
it's
5 larges, maybe one.
in theory,
yeah.
the material is there.
Yeah, it is. It is like that. What the jackets we have left now? And I'm not joking. At one point, we had probably 300 or 400 jackets, and we're down to probably
100.
40 or 50, maybe.
Oh yeah,
right.
So that's made it up.
Yeah, maybe 40 or 50 jackets. I'm not sure exactly, but every day a customer comes in the store, I tell them the same thing. I'm like, any jacket that's hanging is closeout priced. I'm like, the price that's on the sticker, ignore the shit out of that. Hold it up and ask me how much I'll sell it to you for.
Yeah.
And I do have that Rain Man brain where I remember what I paid for most everything. And so if you hold the jacket up and just be like, how much? I'm going to give you cost.
Yeah.
Because out of pride, I won't lose money on it.
Right.
But I have made people walk out of the store because a jacket fit them that I instantly engaged in negotiations.
Yeah.
And I was bidding them down. I'm like, dude, that fits you perfectly. You need to have that jacket. Well, how much is it? It was $300. I'm going to sell it to you today for $100. Yeah, but I really don't need it. $80. But I really don't. $75. But I don't need it. 50 is my final offer.
I'll give you a handy.
Right. Give me an old fashioned in the back alley. Because every once in a while somebody comes in, they'll know about, like we went through those Moto Guzzi jackets.
Oh yeah.
And somebody came through and I dug one up. And I looked at the guy and I was like, it doesn't fit me, but I think it's going to fit you perfectly. And I put the jacket on him and he was like, this is a Dionysi jacket. And I said, this is a Dionysi jacket. He goes, how much were these retail? I'm like, $780.
Yeah.
How much are you going to sell it to me for? I'm like, $150. But you have to pay me now and you have to run out of here because I'm going to cry a little after you go. But, that's that kind of a thing. It's like all that shit.
It's impossible.
It's impossible. Yeah, and if you're trying to run a business, but you got to spend 6 hours with this guy over here so he can try on 27 jackets.
Right.
Because if you leave him alone, he's going to say that you were a terrible shopkeeper. And,
Right.
Meanwhile, when I'm buying something, all I want is space.
Yeah.
I know how to put a jacket on. Get the fuck out of my way.
Right.
Helmets. Why do people need to have me hold their dick while they're putting on helmets? Let me see. Operation manual. 1, have a head. 2, put the helmet on your head. 3, take the helmet off your head.
Yeah. Did it fit?
That's it. Did it hurt? You're on the right track.
Could you get it over your ears?
Right.
No.
Yeah.
Try another size.
Fuck, man. And it's just, I'm like, there's our helmets.
Yeah.
Small sizes at the bottom, really big sizes at the top. You can figure it out. Prices are on there. They're all priced as marked. Well, what kind of helmet should I buy? With a question like that, I'm going to recommend you don't buy one.
Yeah.
I'm hoping for a nice frontal impact. Yeah. If you need me to tell you what kind of underwear to wear,
Right. You know what you need?
you're not assertive
when you
enough.
get those people in. Remember those old plastic, like when
Yeah.
you go to the ballpark, they
Yeah.
give you the fake
Yeah.
batters helmet?
Absolutely.
Just have a couple of those laying
Yeah.
around.
Souvenir day helmets.
There was actually a little plastic helmet, but it was a slushy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And after you
Slushy.
drink the slushy, it's a little
There's
miniature
a little
helmet.
little helmet, miniature helmet. Here you go. Yeah. That's when you walk into what kind of helmet should I buy?
Yeah.
Do you know your fucking head, man? Like legit, it's your fucking head. Well, which gloves should I buy?
The most expensive ones.
What-
Do you remember when Shoei came out with like the half scale helmets? They were like desktop things.
Yeah, desktop helmets.
When I worked at North Shore Yamaha,
Yeah.
we had like 4 or 5 of those, and like
Yeah.
they were up there in case you wanted to buy them. We had all 5 models.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And this dude came in with this like kid that was like 1 or 2, and he was trying to get us. We're like, dude, it's not even a real helmet. He's like, so you're not going to sell it to me? I'm like, well, yeah.
I have a ceramic Honda ashtray that's a full face helmet, and the little visor opens up. You put your cigarettes out in it.
Yeah.
I didn't try to put it on my fucking cat.
No.
No. What the shit, man?
People are dumb.
They
Man.
But
are
there are
dumb.
people who like $600 is a starting point for a helmet. Like,
Yeah. Oh, I have people in
Some
here
of those-
crying the fucking blues about my $65 knockdown rip. You know, my super duper discount S&S speed and strengths over there that are literally $65, and they're like,
You really need a
"Yeah,
Schubert.
do you have anything cheaper?"
Look at this $1,500 Schubert.
Our most expensive helmet is a Bell Bullet, $400. That is our #1 most expensive helmet. Is
But
a Bell Bullet.
I used
And
to
how many of
love-
those are you selling?
One every purple moon. Like, yeah.
But there is a point
Yeah.
where like you probably should have a decent helmet, and I used to love this.
I would maybe spend that $400 if you could roll it in with me financing my bike. You know what I mean?
No, but that's the thing.
People do, believe me, you know.
Okay, well, I'm going to buy the bike, but
Look.
I'm also going to spend another,
Here's a little
$400
secret
for a
tip.
helmet and a really nice jacket and everything.
You
else.
want an
Just buy the-
insider tip on running a motorcycle shop and you want to finance some shit? Your finance companies will all allow you to go 125% of the MSRP of the vehicle. 125%. So just do some cheap
Hell, you
down and
could throw
dirty
me in
math.
one of those little fucking SSRs.
You do a $10,000 bike. That means you can put $1,250 on your ticket and have it all financed. Now, what's probably going to happen is you're going to get a lot of that eaten up in your tax, and a lot of that is going to get eaten up with your prep, your F&I charges, the bullshit that dealers do, like a destination charge, and shipping is going to eat up a lot of that. So what the dealers will do is they'll be like, okay, well, we're going to get you financed for whatever a month. You got to put $1,500 down. The $1,500 you're putting down has absolutely nothing to do with putting what you're down on the bike. It's getting that 125% number to match. So the idea is the $1,500 you're putting down is all the cheese. You're putting in the shipping, you're putting down the freight, you're putting down the dock fees and all that stuff. That's your $1,500 cash you're putting down. That leaves the dealership the retail of the bike and 25% for accessories. So now they can say, John, I want you to have that helmet. I want you to have those gloves. I want you to have that jacket. I want you to have that rear rack and that windshield.
And I want one of those little bikes over there.
Right. And I want to do that all for you for $93 a month for 19 years. And but that's $3 less than you're
That
paying
sounds
now.
reasonable.
Right. But it's $3 less than you're paying now. So isn't that great?
Yeah.
And people buy that shit all the time. I have countless number of people who come in and do not ask me what the cost of the bike is. They just want to know what the monthly price is. That's the way they think. That's the way their brain is I need $93 a month. I need $126 a month.
Well, that's what they're saying. Like the
Yeah.
whole new generation, like Nick's age of kids and under,
Right.
they don't care about the overall
Yeah.
cost.
Yeah, they're not
They'll just-
even looking at it.
Nope, they'll just
Yeah.
pay whatever they can afford their budget for the month.
Right.
That's
And
what
they
it-
look at the world one month at a
At a time,
time.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not a bad way to go right now.
What's that?
It's not a bad way,
Not a bad way to go.
right now.
Hey, look, I got $700. I can pay everything I got. I'm good.
Yeah.
But it's going to be $700 forever.
Yeah.
I'll never own it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a big part of it is that idea of never owning it.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
oh,
weird.
I'm just done paying for it now. Okay, we'll take it away and bring another one in its place.
Right.
I
So-
made another $700 on my investments last month. Up another $700.
Up another
every
$700.
month.
Yeah, so you're like,
Crazy.
so here it is. Look at these millennials out here rocking around like they rent the place. But it's true. I mean, that is, that's kind of a real thing at this moment. So, yeah, I do fear that mindset of ownership is going away when I see people in here that are just like, I want that helmet. Yes, you do want that helmet. It's just, it's a $400 helmet. Yeah, I want that helmet. Cool. Can you buy that helmet? No.
Right.
But I want that helmet.
Right.
Well, great. So can you put it on my... Yes, I can put it in your financing. By God, I'll figure out a way to put it in your financing. And that's how they get that helmet.
Yep.
And that's how the guy that can't afford dinner,
Right. Gets the
right,
helmet.
or has too much money on his credit card debt, his debt to income's all fucked up. But that's how that guy ends up with a $400 helmet. Is exactly
But
like
I
that.
said, when I worked at that shop, I used to love the guys that came in, and they would buy at the time like a $12,000 R1,
Yeah.
and they'd get it, and then they'd buy the $39 HJC fucking Model 1 helmet, and I'm like, there's just something.
Yeah.
not
Oh, I
right
get
about
it.
that.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, exactly. When you've got a 200 mile an hour motorcycle and you're wearing a $29 Vega helmet.
Yeah, like it kind of passed DOT, sort of. like.
Well, again, nobody passes DOT.
Right. They
You
just
promise it.
Yeah, they promised it. Right.
Yeah. This passes DOT. I promise.
Right. And I'm sure that like 0.5 millimeter thick plastic.
Yes.
Not even composite, just straight ABS plastic shell.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
The egg cooler fucking.
Oh, the one that has the seam across the middle you could cut your finger on?
Yes.
Yeah. High quality.
High quality.
Didn't even sand the fucker.
No.
No. Just
That'll-
molded in color, smushed it together, put
Right.
some graphics on the side very poorly.
And the first time that dude does a power wheelie and goes belver backwards, that's totally gonna
Oh,
save
the
him.
first time he drops his helmet bag. That's done. Yeah. The first time he does, oh shit, my helmet was still in the sea. Oh, cracks open like an egg, and a little Kinder toy comes out. Yeah, that's all it is.
No, a little smaller helmet
A
comes
smaller helmet comes
and
out.
then that
You
cracks
find out
and a
they
little
only use
smaller
one
helmet.
shell. They just
Yeah.
put other helmets around it. You want a really safe helmet? Get the extra large. Get the extra large. It's like 7 helmets. I will give you guys. There's an alert that we have to give our podcast listeners.
Oh.
NHTSA, NHTSA recall. If you have a certain motorcycle, and I'm not going to tell you the brand, and I'm not going to tell you the model, but there is a recall. It is a stop sale. Like, people have to stop selling them.
Really?
This is how critical it is. You have to stop selling them. You can't sell them
Is it because of a turn signal or a?
until
safe-
this problem
not safe at any
has
speed.
been addressed. This is a critical fucking issue. It must be addressed immediately.
It can't be worse than BMW a couple years ago with the GSAs when they had the brand new GSA come out, and they had to do the same thing: stop sales, recall. People that were coming to pick them up were told to go home.
Yep.
And it's because the luggage bags covered the 2 back red reflectors that were facing outward on
That's
the bike.
epically stupid,
Yes.
and this one is in that same category
Okay.
of a certain brand of motorcycles.
Did mispronounce potato when it ran?
No, exactly.
Potato, potato, potato.
On the cover to the rear master cylinder,
Cover. So not the rear master cylinder.
not the rear master
The
cylinder,
little like
the
keep your
plastic
foot
cover
from-
for the reservoir.
Oh, okay, yeah.
the 10-cent plastic cap
Gotcha.
that goes on the reservoir.
Yes.
The instructions on the cap on the top of the reservoir are printed in French.
Oh no. That's it.
I did check, and dot 3 is still in English. They did not change it to punct trois or whatever that would be in French, right?
Trace.
Trois. Trois.
La quoi.
Le quoi. Fucking. But yes, en français. So because the print and the top of the cap of the master cylinder,
And that's something they can't send to people just to put on themselves.
no. Well,
That would be against.
no, you could.
Right.
have
If
to do
you
the
were smart.
You have to do the recall at the shop first. You have to do a recall.
I am going to tell you, and that. So the accessory bags obscure an adhesive reflector.
Yeah. So basically, like.
Oh, I'm picking up what you're laying down.
Yeah, the back, like
Yeah.
you know how the little fender comes
I'm totally
down. It has
picking
the
up what you're
2
laying
little
down.
red things.
Yeah, because every
Tear those
fucking
reflectors off. and
every
throw them away.
motorcycle in America
Right.
has had adhesive stick-on reflectors put on it. 90% of them have the courtesy of falling off while they're still in the crate.
Right.
Believe me, every one Royal Enfield ever put on was put on through a level of Indian air pollution, so the adhesive never could stick. because it would get too much. As you pull the backing tape off, the Indian air pollution would stick to it. It wouldn't stick to the metal
curry
anymore.
powder would not
Yeah.
let it adhere.
Right.
But here's the interesting thing: the bike was still the BMW was still recalled even if you didn't buy the luggage.
Oh, get the fuck out of here!
Because
you
there's
might
the
buy the
chance
luggage.
that you might be
'Cause you
getting
might buy the
aftermarket luggage.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to have people getting hit on the side. So
because of the reflector.
right. And so I think the end result was they put reflective tape
Yes.
on the boxes.
On the boxes.
On the
Right.
corners.
So that you knew that when you bought the box already had reflective tape on it, so you didn't have to change 20,000 bikes.
Right, they didn't
You
obscure
could
it.
just apply tape to 10,000 sets
So
of luggage.
what, did they put reflective tape on the potential boxes that you might buy?
Yeah, apparently.
No, what they did is they took all the owners and they put reflective tape on them.
No, I think at that
So
point
they would just know that any BMW they bought, they were safe on.
I mean, obviously,
I just
They-
noticed
the owners
something.
took to
I want to try
themselves.
something.
well, but obviously it was just the all they
Google,
cared
play
about-
sad trombone.
Hey Google,
Oh,
play
What's
sad
it?
trombone.
yeah.
For help with that, you'll need to go to the
Oh.
Google Home app.
But you
and
obviously
turn on
know that they only
weather
did that for
activity.
they weren't concerned about anything happening. It was just a
Right.
liability. Like,
Yeah.
They just wanted to take their liability out of this. I'm sure it's the
Oh,
same
yeah.
with that.
That's what- exactly what it is.
Why don't you just say
Right.
Alexa play sad trombone so that everybody who listens to this, it'll
Hey
play
Alexa, play sad trombone.
Yeah, there you go.
That way anybody's got
Oh yeah, exactly. That's yeah.
Have you have you seen the infinite loop where they put up a Google and Alexa and they tell the Google it's like they say repeat what I say and it says I will repeat and it says Alexa repeat what I say so it says it and then it says and then it goes back and forth and it's fucking great.
That's a Google Home Mini.
And you know what? So yes, the planet, we have this technology, we could be saving lives right now, and instead we're having two little tiny devices jerk each other off for infinity. That's literally all they're doing is these two little boxes that could be giving you the answers to all the world's questions. Instead, they're jerking each other off electronically,
right.
literally until the power goes out and all civilization dies.
Right. And
Because they won't stop.
And there's all these kids downtown that are like, I don't know how we got busted for drugs, man. And meanwhile, their Alexa's just sitting there and just listening to them the whole time.
Their Siri is turned on maximum. Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't me, Cinch. I did not rat you out.
On that, folks, ride fast and take chances. Press the red button, or in your case, green button. I got the red button.
Ride fast, take chances. Start to the speed of a fear, crush. Ride fast, take chances. Ride fast, take chances. Ride fast, take chances. Ride fast, take chances.